Hello, everybody, and welcome back to After Discussing Murder Live. Just want to give a
Hello,
heads.
everybody, and welcome.
Just want to give everybody a heads up. Thanks for joining us from the premiere. I see that Gloria's here and TTM Fangirl and Bob Bailey. Thanks to see you again, sir. TTM Fangirl, awesome to have you in Behind the Magic. Great to see everybody here. Glad that you guys could join us over after the premiere. Ellie's softball life. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to everybody out there who subscribed in the last month. Saw a nice spike in subscriptions. Big help to the channel, guys. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. That helps the videos circulate, and more people are able to see what we're doing and support the channel that way. After after that episode, I am just kind of stoked and ready, and we have movement on the case, and we have a little bit of excitement. We have some new research for you guys coming later. We're going to do some pictures. I think Jack's brought some images that maybe everybody hasn't seen as much of, which kind of relate back to the episode that we just finished talking about Redance and the quarry and that kind of area. So let's introduce the panel of participants around the wheel and welcome everybody. And first, we will say hello to Calf Calf. Hey, Calf, how you doing?
Hello, how is everyone today?
Fantastic.
Good.
Thank you. Pretty good.
Did that not sound
Pretty good.
enthusiastic?
Well,
Hello, everyone. How's everyone
There you
going? There we go.
everyone's
There
just
we go.
fantastic, Calf. Thank you so much. And we will go to Jack. Hey, Jack.
Hello, greetings everyone. I'm doing very well, Kev. Thank you for asking, and greetings to everyone in the live chat.
And Brian, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Hopefully, everyone else is doing well as well. What is it? Tuesday, right? Yeah,
It's Tuesday here for me. I think it's
And
Wednesday
me
for
too.
people in Australia.
Oh, that's right. All right.
Yep.
Tuesday for me.
Taco Tuesday, maybe. And Kelly, how you doing today?
I'm well. Good morning to everyone. It is Wednesday morning here in Western Australia. It's good that everyone is joining us in the live and especially in the chat.
Absolutely. It's great to see everybody joining. Cher is here, and Anthony Hill's Case 10 have joined over from the premiere. Glad to see everybody kind of popping in and joining us for this. So we did see a little bit of movement in the case today. We saw the judge, Ange, um, allow. Maybe one of you guys want to take this for. I haven't had a chance to look it over, but Jack, you brought in to share.
Yep, this is all it is. It's very short. It's the court orders the following: KZ and Associates is allowed to file a reply to the state's response up to and including January 26, 2023. KZ and Associates is granted leave to file an amended notice of motion and third motion for post-conviction relief pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 97406 and 805.15. That's it. That's all that was filed. So she's allowed.
Well,
She's allowed to amend. Yeah. Well, she's allowed to amend her motion.
that is big. That is big.
I-
I think being able to change what she first went in with. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, change, add to, alter, whatever. If she's got something new that maybe she's requesting or whatever. I have a suspicion, but it's only a suspicion, and I'll just keep my
Well, what's your
trap shut.
suspicion? 'Cause I'm going to go around the wheel, Jack, and ask everybody what they think.
Well, I mean, you have to look at what we're talking about as far as the Sawinski thing and what's involved. I mean, it could be anything that they have in evidence that she wants tested. before things go forward. So if there's something in evidence that she would like, I'm just going to pick out a random thing. Say she wants item CX tested, and that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the RAV or Sawinski, but there are things, they possibly on or in that RAV. Shit, I'm getting a phone call. Anyway, pass it on and I'll be back. That's just my thoughts, though.
Absolutely, yeah. Actually, anybody who just wants to pipe up, I feel like I put this question up from case 10, and that says that she's had a lot of time to write the amendment. Do you think she will do it soon? Like, is she going to reply to this really quickly? And I don't think that this is one of those instances that we're looking for a fast reply or movement from KZ. We want her to take her time and double check everything and make sure everything is in order, because the state technically can also reply again, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, she's only got
I
till
would
January
think she'd
26th, doesn't
already
she?
had written it.
Yeah, I would think. She's only got till the 26th of January, so it's like, what, 2.5 weeks or something?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If it's something that's easy, that she wants done, tested, or something that she has that's been tested, she wants to submit. I mean, there's a whole gambit of things. Really, I mean, seriously. And I think you all are probably correct. She's probably got this already ready to go, whatever it is. Probably before Christmas, So I don't know. I'm just trying to think what she could potentially be doing or want to amend. Just a thought. May not mean a damn thing. You get your money's worth, as Big Jeff says. I'm not a lawyer, so there you go.
Yeah, so I agree. I'm gonna hold back in speculating too much. I think this in itself isn't something that we get too excited about. This is standard practice. She had a legal right to be able to request these, and it's definitely in Angela's best interest to just grant it, because if she didn't grant it, it would have went to courts of appeal, and they probably would have just went and shoved it back to Angela and said, for God's sake, just allow her to add or fix or house maintenance or whatever it is she's got to do to do with it, that she would have went to them about regardless. So I'm not looking into this like it's something huge at this stage. I will hold back any kind of judgment until we see what Kathleen is going to put forward. Then I'll start speculating what I think will happen next. But I do think that maybe the only thing this is why I want to say maybe is they allowed her to grant two things, which was a reply to her original motion that the state did, and then they're allowing her to amend the original. So in the docket, sometimes I've been told by a lawyer that there's some information that we don't get to see. It's like a little bit of an extra description of what they're wanting to do. So if that is the case, maybe she's allowing her to do both of them, because she's only going into the original motion to amend it just to housekeep it, like to fix errors, tidy it up, versus adding to it, because that's what the whole reply back to the state is for. Otherwise, you would just dismiss the reply and say, no, just add it all into your new original, because the original PCR in the amendment becomes the finale kind of thing. It kind of overrides it to a sense. So I'm thinking in that terms of it, that she's just going in housekeeping with the original, and the reply is because there's nothing new. It's just that will be her chance to deliver what was already said, because Ange might have that little bit more information than what we see. I guess we'll wait. We'll see what Kathleen is bringing forward. And I'm going off what the tweet said before she deleted it. She said after all this kind of went down, when the state actually did their response, I don't know if you all remember that she put out a tweet almost immediately saying already working on a reply. It's a lot easier when you're working with facts or something on those lines. That's completely paraphrasing, but it was on those lines. So, and then it was removed from her Twitter account. But in a sense, it appears that she has already got something lined up. I don't think you would put forward to have a reply if you haven't already got a structure of where you were going to go. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's already written and right now it's in housekeeping mode and that's just tidying it up and getting ready to drop it.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of in the anticipation mode as you are. Most of you are. Excuse me. Can't wait to see what she's going to amend or add or change or delete potentially changes made. And this is how the system works, right? It's slow. Sorry to say it. That's just the way it works. Everything happens slowly. But I think the question that came up earlier was, do you think she'll reply quickly? And I think, yeah, you guys kind of changed my mind. I think she is going to not wait. Why wait the 2 weeks? Let's move on. Let's get going. If she's prepared and she's got her stuff ready to go, locked and loaded, as they say, let's do it. So. Well, as Big Jeff always loves to say, on to the next. So, I think Kel, are you ready to share something new that you've kind of been working on?
Sure. Before we do it, maybe a disclaimer that this is like not. It's pretty amateur, like it's pretty rookie like. It was something that I kind of just drafted together. It's my first attempt at doing a PowerPoint as a presentation. I just wanted to kind of put something all together for everyone to follow along. Before we share it, I'll just give you a quick background of what it is. I went back and I wanted to put the because Kathleen is kind of going against Denny, and Denny plays such a significant role in where we're going with this, and we've got, obviously the motive, the opportunity, and the direct connection. The Dassy computer plays a big part in it now because obviously we've got that is her motive. So I wanted to, although I've done a lot of independent research on the computer content itself, which I've discussed it, but I haven't ever put it in a format where we can all review it. I wanted to go backwards before I go there. And that was the timeline of the Dassy computer. I wanted to see when it kind of came into anyone's radar in terms of whether it was law enforcement, whether what Stephen was saying, what family members were saying. So that's what I've done. I've gone back and I want to see where it all originates from. Where did the Dassy computer come into focus and who did it come into focus for? And we kind of go down there and essentially it plays into Denny because when Ken Kratz put in his Denny motion and then it got a ruling denied, that took away the opportunity to use even the Dassy computer back in the trial for Stephen. So without further ado, Jeff, if you want to maybe bring it up, and I'll just kind of walk you through it. So obviously the first bit is your Dassy computer timeline. So the next part is we're going to focus on why is this? Well, that is when Dean enters to represent Stephen Avery. I couldn't find the exact date that he actually started, but all I know is that he came in. That they're claiming, with what I'm reading, it's around the third week of the February. Dean doesn't start immediately. He was finishing off, if I remember correctly, another case. So he comes in like a week after. And then obviously their investigator, I know the gentleman has passed away now, but he also joined the team. With a little bit of research, and it's not really relevant, but we'll just add it in there because it's always good to have a little bit more information than just leave it open-ended. But it was actually Pete, the gentleman that passed away, which was the investigator. They didn't actually sort him out. He actually went to them and offered his services, and he was a retired like a detective. So he kind of came into the case because he inserted himself. He was following obviously the case, and he said to Dean and Jerry, I have some services that you might find that you could use me, and I can be your private investigator. And that's how he kind of went on board. So as soon as Dean and Jerry did take the case and they kind of got started, they started to go to the Avery salvage yard, and they were kind of walking through it with all the reports I was kind of seeing at the beginning, where they were going back, they were looking at the yard, they were looking at the location where the RAV was, and walking through and trying to get a feel clearly of the whole crime scene. So if we go to the next one, the next slide is the 16th of February of 2006. So this is a conversation with Blaine. He's on MSN. Now, the relevance of this doesn't kind of loop in until the very end, but I just wanted to kind of put it in there because it's sitting in the February side of it. Before anyone even knew anything about the computer, there's a comment that's being made about the computer. And that is Blaine Dassey is talking to a girl that we identify as Cassie. And he says the statement, there's something going on. There's something wrong with my computer. Cassie replies, whatever. I'm not falling for this time. He then says, no, there is a virus on this computer. Cassie replies, well, that's what you get when you look at porn. So again, that's not anything that's really significant to where I'm going right now, but it will tie back. So if we go to the next slide. Now this one's an audio one. So with this one, I just want to give you the background story because I want you guys to really understand what it is before we press play. I've taken a snippet of it so you guys can hear it, the exact things I need you guys to hear. So it's on the 28th of February of 2006. Stephen calls Ma Avery. He's referencing that everyone in Barb's house are sex maniacs, and all you have to do is look at this computer. So I'll let Jeff play it so we can all just get a feel of where he was going with it. If it's playing, I'm not hearing anything.
No, I can't hear it if it's playing.
Well, I'm the only one that gets to hear it then, I guess. It was playing for me. Let me see if it creates an echo. Let me know. Otherwise, maybe you'll be able to hear it this way.
So if you want to talk about something, go look on that. That'll tell you. Yeah. Yeah, because everything after that. I think Brendan got like that from playing them games. Yeah. Well, but he and Brendan too. Blaine, Bobby. Yeah, but they never played that like Brendan did. Them hand things with his hands. Oh yeah, but this is dinner. Only day and night. Yeah. First, one day I didn't even know he was in the basement. He was playing there all day. Never showed his nose. Yeah. I don't know. I said, God, let that kid go somewhere. Instead of let him just do what he pleases. You know. Yeah, but he gonna be home in the morning?
I think that's it, Kel. That's the end of the.
Yes. Yeah, so that's what. So as we just heard, just a recap, he's saying that they're all sex maniacs and that they all have stuff on the computer. He names Brendan, Bobby, and Blaine. So he identifies that he's aware that all three boys are using that computer for, obviously, porn. So that's the very first time we get a sense of the computer pops up in like in a generalization. So if you go to the next call, he is talking to Barb, and that will be hang on, let me just confirm that. Have we gone to the next one? Oh, okay, my apology. Yep. So Brendan's obviously arrested in between that. So the 1st of March, Brendan is now arrested. So we now slot that into our timeline. Then the next thing that we hear is 2 days later. So 2 days later, on the 3rd of March of 2006, Stephen's on the phone to Barb. And in this, he brings up all the boys looking at the computer. I did allow a little bit more content to come into this because I felt it was a little bit more relevant to kind of let it play out, because I didn't want to just stop it mid-conversation. I believe that if you're going to produce something, show the whole content and don't just snippet what you want in terms of cherry picking. So this one's a little, I think a little few more seconds more than the last phone call snippet, but I just get Jeff to play it.
I guess he did it over by you. Oh, Brendan. Did what over by me? With her. Oh, I don't see that either. Give me a break. A 16-year-old kid? Oh, well, look, life just moves sometimes. Sometimes you get younger than that. And look what he does all on a computer. What does he do on the computer? All it is sex. Him, Blaine, Bobby. It's all sex. Yeah, but you didn't know that. Yeah? So they look up pictures. Big deal. Well, they're at that age. Well, they say that's a part of our thing. What, looking at pictures? Big deal. Yeah. Well, I don't know. See, right now, you're telling me Brendan did it. I don't know. You don't know. You just said he did. No, I didn't. I said he could have. He could have. I don't know that. If I'm at home, if I'm in the house or in the garage or out just outside, what I know. I'm in your house. Most times your kids come home, all they do is go on the game. On the game. Yeah, that's what they do. They're game freaks. That's all they are. What makes a difference? I'd rather have them home playing a game than out bumming on the streets. Well, and causing trouble. Well, yeah. My kids never ever got in trouble. Never. I didn't say that. Maybe little stuff. I didn't say that. But why pin it on me? He helped me when he did.
Was that the end of that one? I'm guessing.
He already admitted to it.
A little bit, yeah.
He did it.
I think there was a little bit more to it, but it's just that he talks about, unless I missed it, but he talks about that. She said, "How could that be? You're telling me that Teresa come back?" And he said, "Yeah, I don't know." And then she just goes on to basically say, why did you put it under my name? So again, relevance, not so much in terms of the Dassy computer, but I really wanted it to kind of play it all out, because I don't think it would have been fair just to cut it off while you can see that they're having a conversation stemming off the computer. So that is the third. So the next thing that is on the this PowerPoint, which I think is really interesting, which I didn't know until I started doing this research. So this is where it takes a bit of a turn. And I'm not sure, again, if people might have already known this, but this was new information to me. And when you structure it all in, and when, especially as we get to the middle where I kind of format it to review it as a team, you'll see where I was going with this. The 5th of April.
Hold up real quick, Kel. Just let me interrupt real quick. I think it's good to point out that this was years before Zellner even knew about Stephen Avery.
Absolutely.
And also back to that point that didn't play. Yeah, even Barb was smart enough to realize, like, what are you talking about? You said she was here an hour before Brennan even got home. Are you saying she came back? And of course, Stephen's like, okay, I don't know, but so okay, continue what you're saying.
No, that's awesome. That this is why I wanted to present this, for people to give feedback and to come in, and especially the bits that I have missed out. So this is an email. There is an email exchange between the defense and the prosecutor. The email content is unknown, but we will see Ken's response as we continue the timeline. Just a side note, this email was sent 33 days after we last hear that Stephen Avery talked to Barbara about all the boys using the computer for sex stuff. So I could not find this email. I know it exists because you'll all see proof that it exists somewhere, but I couldn't find the specificness of what he was asking in it, but you kind of get an idea with it because of the response. So then let's move forward. So remember, this is on the 5th of April. So then 2 days later, after Dean sends Ken a message, we have Jody on the phone to Stephen, which is the 7th of April of 2006, which is the next slide. So before Jeff plays this, just a bit of a idea of what we're going to be hearing. Stephen tells Jody that his lawyers, and I'm going to repeat this, that his lawyers is requesting Barb's computer to be examined. So we now know that Dean puts in an email 2 days prior. Then he's telling Jody that it's his lawyers that are wanting that computer, not the state. State haven't even got an epiphany of what's happening with this computer yet. So let's play this and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And I think maybe next week he could call. If we could get our computer back. Yeah. Yeah. This call is from the Calumet County Jail. This call may be monitored or recorded. Because Barbara's going to lose hers. Yeah. Yeah. But don't say nothing. I won't. Yeah. Yeah, the lawyer put it in already. Did he? Yeah. You're great. Yeah, but I thought we'd get back up down there. Yeah, also get some information and everything. Yeah. Yeah, I have to try to find that one place I was going to work at home off the computer. Yeah. Maybe call Laura and ask her if I go back down there. Well, we got to make sure everything is settled. Yeah.
Okay, so recap, because it got a little bit messy in that. So before I clicked it a little bit too late when I was starting to do the recording, but the bit before he talks about Barb's going to lose hers too. He's asking Jody, you've got to really remember this because it plays a bit of a significant part in a minute. He's asking Jody to ring up and ask about his hard drive because at this stage, they still have his computer. His computer was seized months prior. So he says to her in the beginning bit that I missed out, I completely apologize for that. But he's saying, well, then maybe you can ring up and get our computer back. And that's when he says, because Barb's about to lose hers too. Don't say anything. But my lawyers put it in. They put it into Kratz. So then they kind of just go on about how the little bit of mumble in that is just about how they're going to move forward with it all. And that's kind of the end of that. So that is a part that you guys I wanted you to hear, that he's mentioning that it's his lawyers. His lawyers are putting in that they want that computer. And we, again, 2 days prior to this, Dean sends a message to an email to Ken. So then the next day, on the 8th of April, Stephen talks to Rolly, and he again is talking about his lawyers wanting Barb's computer. And I really want you guys to listen to this because there's a little bit more content, but it starts to really paint a picture. So press play.
The lawyers on their computer back yet? No, not yet. This call was from the Calumet County Jail. This call may be monitored or recorded. I told her that she can call it back. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I thought most likely he's going to anything out that they want anyhow. Yeah, I got what he got on that anyway. Well, my lawyer put in for Barbara's. So they'll probably go and get hers. Well, yeah, I gotta send myself. Yep. You know, I know there's a lot of shit on hers with them kids. Yeah, they use it quite a bit. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But they'll find out anyway, so. And Barbara will be mad. That's how she took my computer. Yeah. Yeah. Some or other, right now do not feel sorry for her. No, I don't either. It's her fault. Really, it's all their fault. They shouldn't have been talking. You're Chucky and Earl. You know, they keep on questioning them. And then they get mad.
Okay, so as you heard, he says it very clearly again. My lawyers have requested it. There's a lot of stuff on that computer, and he says, I have to defend myself. And Rolly agrees. So that's just again, when we get to the middle part of this, when I break it down to what this is all meaning, you'll kind of get more of a clearer understanding. So the next thing on the slide is where let's have a look. Yes, so this is it. This is on the 10th of April of 2006, 5 days after Strang sends his email, and Stephen has now been talking about his lawyers have put in something to Ken. I found Ken's email back to Strang. So what he's saying in it, it says, Dear Attorney Strang, I have received your letter, your letter dated the 5th of April of 2006. We did not seize the Dassey computer, we did not seize the computer from Barb Yonder. He goes on to say, we will retain possession of the hard drive until you are in Calumet County to come pick it up from my office. So it looks like that's two things. Clearly in one of Strang's requests, and when he wrote his first email, he's asking, did they take the computer? He's saying, no, we don't have it. We didn't even take it. The second part of that email is about the hard drive. We hear Stephen talking to Rolly. We hear him talking to Jody about wanting his hard drive back. So Ken's saying in that second part of that sentence, saying, no, we still have the hard drive. When you guys come up here, you guys can pick up Stephen's hard drive and have it back. But essentially, no, we don't have Dassey's computer. So at this point, the tip-off to the state that the computer is even relevant is from the defense side. Stephen's on the phone calls keeps repeating about this Dassey computer and the significance of what's on it and wanting to use it for some point to defend himself. And yet the prosecutors are getting emails from the defense asking about it. So there's a bit of an idea of where the tips started to formulate. So the next part that we have is, I got to remember what the next one. So 4 days after Ken sends that email back saying we don't even have the computer, they go and interview Mr. Jacobs in jail. That was from Mark. And it's now 6 days since Stephen last mentioned the computer, Barb's computer on a call. So here's the irony. In jail, we now have how many people we got now? 1, 2, 3, 4 people before the computer's even seized that there's something about this computer that is interesting to the defense. Because now even this gentleman in jail is saying there's porn on Barb's computer, and if it was ever found, there would be trouble. So what happens after that? 7 days later, we all know. If we go to the next one. The computer seized. So the computer gets taken on the 21st. Fassbender takes the computer itself and 12 CDRs from the residence of Barb Yonder. The reason why I put in that little bit of the CDRs is because in the community over the years, I'll even admit, I used to get confused between the DVDs, the 7 that we hear gets returned, like that come into the mix, versus the 12 CDRs. So I just wanted to capture what the CDRs are separate to the DVDs. So just a real light recap of what they are. CDRs were CDs that they found scattered amongst the Yanda residents, whether it was on top of the drawers or in the drawers. And it was Blaine Dassey who claimed they were his and that he would use them to add music to them. But they took them anyway just to make sure that that's obviously what was on them. So very light understanding what that is. At this point, is there any questions, or should I kind of get to the next bit, which is kind of where I needed us to go anyway? If you maybe switch to the next slide. Okay, so on the 11th of May of 2006, Fassbender receives Dassey computer report. So Fassbender now it had been sent to old mate. He gets the computer stuff and he then gives it to the detective Mike Valley, I think people call it. So I just wanted to highlight that. This is 20 days after the computer was seized. So now it's coming back and he's got the report. On the 12th of May, the Dassey computer and those 12 CDRs are now returned back to the Yanda residents. They don't need them anymore. They've got the report. They've returned it. If you go on to the next day, on the 13th. Now, on the 13th, Brendan Dassey has an interview. And on it, Wiggett asks him, is there anything on your computer that we should know about? You talk to anyone about this online? Brendan, not really. Wiggett, what do you mean not really? Well, would ask them a question in that. Wiggett, like what kind of question? Brendan, like if they think Stephen and that. Wiggett, you would ask people that. Why would you ask people that? Brendan, well, I asked Marie and Travis that. Wiggett, okay. What is your screen name? For what? MSN and chat rooms and stuff. Email type name. Well, some people said that I spelled it wrong, but I think I did you want to go to the next one? Well, what was that? And then Fassbender says, it's all right, Brendan, but I don't want to say the first word. Fassbender, spell it. Brendan, Niger. Fassbender. And the rest of that was for life. Wiggett, okay, what does that mean? And he goes, that I didn't have problems with black people. So that was just a little bit of the content of the computer. Then what happens? No, we've got to go back one. Okay, so where are we at? All right, so then go back one. Yep, so then we're now this is the interesting bit. On the 6th of June of 2006, Brad Dassey then calls Fassbender. This is now 24 days since they asked Brendan if there was anything on that computer that was relevant. Just waiting for him to, yep. And it's been 26 days since Fassbender had the report come in. And he put it in his drawer. So I've just got to wait for Jeff to get us back through to where we were. So basically, in summary of Brad, he calls up. He says to Fassbender that he was told by Barb that she had got someone to come in and wipe the computer. He says openly, I don't know why she did it. She never told me why, but he has a suspicion that they were hiding something. Then what happens was he calls back. He hangs up, he goes away, and then in the report, Fassbender says at the end that Brad Dassey calls back later yet again. And what he does there is he had rang up Barb and tried to get more details of her. That is where he discloses that Barb had told him that she had spoke to Mike Cornely, which was Blaine's boss at the time, and that he then spoke to Mike himself, and it was Mike who said that he referred Barb onto the Milwaukee PC place to have some kind of formatting done to the computer. So that bit really always stood out to me because I was like, oh, that's very interesting. And it wasn't until I saw the timeline how interesting it was, because 3 days later, on the 9th of June 2006, Ken Kratz walks into the courts and then he drops a motion for third-party liability. This is 3 days after Brad is ringing up saying there's something about this computer. There is something about this computer. And then Ken goes straight down there and files a restriction straight on Denny. I read that. I read the original motion of third-party liability. And what he is requesting, Ken Kratz, is that the defense cannot use any other evidence of any format to go against anybody but Stephen Avery or Brendan Dassey. So they can't use any other evidence. You can't use, for example, a computer against anybody else, because unless it was against Brendan or Stephen, it doesn't qualify. So automatically the computer, anything that's been on that computer is completely seized out. You can't use it. So if you go to the next page, trust me guys, we're getting through this quite quickly as I can. I think this is the bit where I wanted to kind of get to. What could have the prosecutions learned up to this point? So if we quickly go through the timeline, this is why it's really interesting to look at the view of it. On the 28th of February, Stephen is telling Ma on a recorded jail line that we now know that Ken Kratz openly admitted that they listened to every single one of them, that everyone in the Dassey residence is a sex maniac, and that all they have to do is look at that computer contents on the computer. I wrote side note here, this is the first time we hear him bring up anything to do with the Dassey computer. On the 3rd of the 3rd, Stephen Avery is telling Barb that all her boys all look at porn on a recorded jail line that we hear Ken Kratz openly admit he listened to every call. On the 5th of the 4th, Dean is asking Ken the status of the Dassey computer. This would be a red flag or a tip-off for the prosecution to why the defense is so interested in this computer. On the 7th of April, Stephen is telling Jody, again from a recorded line that Ken had access to, that his team were wanting to take Barb's computer, and he asked this not to be disclosed to Barb. On the 8th of April of 2006, Stephen is telling Rowley on a recorded jail line that his lawyers have put in a request for Barb's computer, that there is a lot of shit on it and that he needs it to be able to protect himself. I wrote a side note here in my notes saying, in my opinion, this is the first time we get an understanding of the team's strategy, that they were actually planning on using the Dassey computer as part of their narrative all the way back then. On the 10th of April, Ken acknowledges that they did not take the Dassey computer. On the 14th of April, Mr. Jacobs, I believe it is, mentions Stephen Avery is talking in jail, and he mentions it to him that the Dassey computer, if reviewed and would be found that there would be trouble, then the computer's taken on the 21st. On the 13th, investigators are asking if there's anything on that computer to Brendan. On the 6th of the 6th, Brad Dassey is calling investigators 2 times to tell them that there is something about that computer that is interesting. I did another side note here in my notes saying this would be, in my opinion, more of a tip-off to move forward, as yet another independent person is making references to the computer outside the immediate family. And then 3 days later, Ken files a third-party liability motion to stop the defense, including any alternative motive, by being able to use any kind of evidence against anybody else. So there is a little bit more because as it goes along, but is there anything we want to discuss at this point?
I'm trying to find it, Kel. I'm trying to find the Dassey search warrant because I don't know if it's dated though. That's my problem. What I mean by dated.
Oh, I've got it. I've got it in the link here. It's quite. That was about the. Is that the actual warrant itself, or like the description of the warrant?
No, the actual warrant of what Fassbender wrote in it. And again, I can't remember the exact dates of when Candy Avery contacted Fassbender.
Yes.
Brian? There's also a DCI report, and there is some dates in it, but it doesn't specifically outline a really good timeline of when he found this information. It just lists dates of, anyway, he goes around it. What I'm looking for is when did Candy actually contact them? Because I think she's the one that really, I'll say that I believe that she had an impact, a direct impact. But, this other is relevant too. So I'm trying to find it, but I can't seem to locate it, but I'm looking. 304. That's not it.
So while I was doing this research, just quickly while you're looking, I was disclosing this to some of the panel members here, and I was kind of going back and forth, and it was actually Brian who was saying to me, there's something else that we can add to it. I've just got to find it. And he's interested in something you just mentioned, which is the Candy timeline. I believe that she mentioned something about it as well. So, so maybe we can add that eventually if we find it. But this is just the structure of if Candy comes after the 5th of April, where Dean has already made a request for it, that just gives it more reasons for them to kind of, in my opinion, at this stage, kind of go. For me, overlooking this and where I was going with it is, it appears that Ken Karatz kind of realized
he's got a problem.
Quickly that he had a problem. That he worked out through these phone calls and through the requests from emails about this Dassey computer what the strategy was for the defense. They were going to go Denny. They were going to use that as a motive of one of the boys. And we will see that. And I can show you exactly how we see that in the next few slides, because it's actually in the reply third-party liability motion of Dean and Jerry. They list them. So you can see why Ken has gone, fuck. They want this computer for a reason. What the hell is on this computer? They've arrested Brendan. They've seized an opportunity to then take control. Here's another thing that I just want to insert here, which I spoke to several lawyers. In all legality reasons, the defense could have just went up to Barb and doesn't need an actual subpoena or a warrant and could have said, can we please take your computer? And if she, as the owner, authorized it, they could have just taken it. In a sense, so could have the prosecution. They could have just said, hey, listen, do you mind if we just take your computer? And you can, if as a occupant, you can go, yeah, sure, you can have it. However, the moment you put it into a seizure kind of format where it's through the courts, you're then got possession of it. There you got that control. So the defense have to work harder for the prosecution to almost utilize it first and then spit it out to you, which we see, because then we see the report come out later, months later, which I've done the timeline for that, which I've incorporated in this. And when we put it into perspective, you realize how long they actually held out for. So, yeah, I just wanted to touch base on that as well.
Yeah, that can certainly give, verbal and written approval. It's sort of like the Vandergrist did for the property on Cuss Road. Yeah, you got, and so they, they had search warrant prepared, but then they come along and said, "Oh, you don't need that. Here's your written permission. Go search." It's all done. It's legal too.
Yeah, I think for me, what I'm seeing here is it's like the issue is not about what's on the computer here. Like this point that I think is being made is that the defense was thinking, oh, maybe we might be able to find something to create our motive prong for a Denny in this computer. They didn't know for sure, but the fact, just because they wanted it, Ken Kratz was like, oh, what could, and so it almost seems like both sides have made something that's not out of in a mountain out of a molehill, as they say. And I just feel like that's Ken Kratz. Oh, they want something? Oh, well, then I got to prevent them from trying to get it. Like, that's it. He didn't know what was on the computer. Ken Kratz had no idea. He just knew that they wanted it, and that was enough for him.
I agree with that. I believe that could have been true in the very beginning. But once he started realizing that this computer was becoming like a question for the defense, all he would have had to do was go back and start listening to these phone calls. And unfortunately, it's Stephen that's kind of shooting him in the foot here, himself in the foot, because he's disclosing it on a recorded line where they now hear him say that he wants to use it to protect himself, and that there's all this sex stuff and all this stuff on it against the boys. And you hear him numerously say, he names them off, Brendan, Bobby, Blaine. And I think that's when Ken has realized, hey, we've got a Denny argument that we have to squash as well, because this guy's on the phone lines here telling all the family members and friends that his defense team are looking at this computer because it's going to help him. What's the only way it could help him? And that's distinguishing a Denny suspect, because you're then creating a motive. As we continue along, you will see that Judge Willis openly says when he makes his decision, which I'm completely jumping ahead of myself, but when you read his final third-party liability order and he denies it, he actually states, I don't rule out that these boys had at least two of the prongs, opportunity and direct connection. What they're missing, what they were always missing, was motive. Now, what is that computer now being used for? See how it all keeps looping back? It's the motive prong. It all loops back. That's why I was so interested to do this timeline, just to see what Kathleen's doing, and in terms of where she's going with it. And she's picking up from what Dean and Strang started, but they got restricted and cut out of very quickly because of the Denny motion ruling.
I found it. I found the search warrant.
Phil, if you would like to, if you want to read it, if you want to include anything in it, go for it. The floor, Jax.
I can just read this number 6 here. This is the affidavit from Fassbender. Number 6, it says your affiant is aware of recorded telephone conversation between Brendan Dassey and his mother, Barb Yonda, which took place on March 27, 2006, while Brendan Dassey was incarcerated at Sheboygan County's secure detention facility. During this conversation, Barbara Yonda tells Brendan Dassey that her telephone line at the residence was busy because, okay, I thought it was something else here. I'm sorry. I saw that date and I got all excited. The computer may contain images, records, and messages which may be relevant to the investigation of the homicide. No, this is not what I don't think this is what I wanted. Or maybe it is. Anyway, back to you guys. I apologize for that.
Oh God, no! Don't apologize. But this is part of the discussion, is trying to like piece it all together as we go along. And I wanted to bring it forward to the chat, to the panel, because any additional information that you guys might have been aware of that I miss is going to be relevant to this. So now that I've laid the format of this, I'm going to say the jigsaw puzzle that I've started to put together, any input I encourage. But in terms of, if there's no one more questions, because there's only a few more slides left that kind of tie it all together, maybe we should just power through them, and that way we can then have like a full open discussion once that's the end of it.
Yeah.
So then,
yeah, I found it, but you go ahead and finish up on it. But I found the section I was looking for. But again, it's not dated. It's not dated, so that's the problem. But you go ahead.
So what we'll do is I'll finish this off, and then when we open it up to have this discussion to summarize it all, let's just add it in there so we can really fit it in. So if we go to the next slide, just so we can get through it. Okay, so then on the 26th of June, this is where Dean and Jerry respond to Ken's third-party liability. I had a bit of a skim of a read of it. It was just essentially saying to them, and the irony of it is they kind of talk about how they don't necessarily think it's fair in a sense, because they're like, the state doesn't even have to give motive, and now all of a sudden motive's like the most biggest prong, like it's one of the prongs, we understand that, and they kind of just go through like the legal reasons of their argument of why they feel that Denny should be appropriate in this case. And it's just a small legal side of it. It's nothing that stood out in terms of naming anyone or anything. That comes a little bit later. If we go to the next slide, we have the 3rd of July, Thomas Fallon writes to the Judge Willis in response to Dean and Jerry's motion. So what I just told you, that, you know, because it goes like Ken Karat's reply from the defense, and then it goes back to the prosecution again. It's almost like what we're seeing with Kathleen right now. She's put in a motion, state got to reply, now she gets to have her final word. This is essentially what's happening at this point. They put in the motion for it, defense got to reply, and then the prosecution got to again have their final word. And that was basically saying, Judge, they're not hitting the points here. Denny is a three clause. You need motive, direct connection, and opportunity. You can't just take away motive and expect to be able to do it. So it's just it's a very tight paragraph just saying dismiss it. Next slide. On the 7th of October, the Judge Willis sets an order on the third party. So in this, I'm not a lawyer. It's just my interpretation. I've got every link here. If anyone wants it, I've included it to all my research. So you guys can see where I'm basing this off. This isn't speculation. This comes from an actual format of documentation. In this one, it's basically his order was just to say that he's putting in like a certain restriction to it. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because the restriction is that if the defense want to bring forward any evidence against a third party, they have to submit it to the courts first and basically get it to be seen and agreed upon before it comes in. That's essentially where it kind of goes with that. Overall, though, he's at that point where he doesn't feel that Denny is going to work. He doesn't see any clause that a Denny is able to be utilized as a defense. But there is a restriction that he's given. It appears, from my interpretation, that he's allowing certain aspects of it come in if they reach the bar of the three-pronged Denny. If you go to the next one, which happens from Dean and Strain on the the 8th of, now this is the interesting one. So on the 8th of January of 2007, Dean and Jerry put forward their list of 3 parties. So this is what kind of stemmed off what Judge Willis had put in his order was, I need you to submit what you want to be heard so we can review it. You have to put it forward and then we can review it. And this is basically where it kind of goes in, it starts with all the legality of it, what third party means and the clauses, and then they list off who they want to bring forward as their Denny's. And in order is how they put it. The first one was, how it's written later, but here it goes now. Andreas Martinez, Robert M. Fabian, James J. Kennedy, Scott Tadage, Charles Avery, Earl Avery, Brian Dassey, Bobby Dassey, Brendan Dassey, and Blaine Dassey. So this is where you can see that moment I was talking about. You hear Stephen on a phone call saying a Barb on the 3rd of the 3rd of 2006. Maybe Brendan did do it, and I just don't even know about it. And she's like, don't be fucking ridiculous. You're telling me that you think she came back to the Avery Salvage Yard? And he's kind of like, oh, yeah, she's got a point here. But even then, the defense were actually putting Brendan into their Denny motive as well. And what does that link down to? The computer. The computer would be their motive. Stephen's been preaching about this sex stuff on the computer with how many people now? For months. In a space of weeks, like days even. So you now start to see the structure of what was going on. The defense was going to use that computer as part of the Denny, even against Brendan. It's only until Judge Willis says, you can only use it against Stephen or Brendan. So do you really want to use it? Because if you're going to use it, it's only against Brendan. So if you go to the next one, this happens on the 8th as well. There's 2 documents that get put into it. If we go to the next slide, I think I should have, yeah. This is from the state. It's the memo and the memo to preclude a third party, and it's from them. And they're basically, what they do is like a reply to that. They list off all the names and they basically say, this is ridiculous. How could have Scott Tadage have done it when we can't even put him at the salvage yard in the day? The only time he's ever on record for being on the Avery salvage yard is at 5:15. And then they kind of go off with everyone. And then they bring up James Kennedy. You can't add him to it because he's actually a witness to another third party Denny. It makes no sense. And then if you go to the next page, we have, I believe, is the final order. And that was handed. Oh, no, my apology. Something happens before the order. On the 25th of January of 2007, Ken Karatz sends Beauty and Strang the Dassey computer final report and the 7 DVDs and refer to it as having nothing much of evidence value. So now they're given the report as such, but stated there's not much into it. So this is after, so they've, and at this stage, it's been 259 days, 8.5 months since Fassbender was given back the report. That's how long they had held on to it at this point. 259 days until right at the end of the Denny argument, just before the judge is about to rule, then they hand over the report. And guess what? It already has restrictions that it's not even going through, because what happens later? 5 days later, next slide, the 30th of January of 2007, Judge Willis files his final decision and takes out third-party liability. Says, nope, you haven't reached the bar. You haven't reached any of it. And guess what he put down to the Dasseys? No motive. None of them had motive. And look what happened. The motive was only given over 5 days prior to the defense team. And then if you just if you want to let that digest for a minute, then we have 19 days after that, Stephen Avery's trial begins. So they had 19 days to siphon through a report and those 7 DVDs if they wanted to use it, which the defense now have made statements in affidavits saying that they didn't. They took their word for that, it was no evidentiary value. And this is where people say, this is where you see that moment where the ball got dropped. And this is why they lost the defense of Brady, because they had the access to it, but only for 19 days, but they didn't utilize and research it themselves. The prosecution don't have to make it easy for the defense. The defense has to do their own research and job. And then if you go to the next, this is one of the last slides. And it's what Barb was talking about in terms of in the chat here. Additional Dassey computer information. So this is where Kathleen kind of slides in. So on the 30th of October of 2017, Brad Dassey submits an affidavit to KZ, and it's saying everything it kind of I've already highlighted back in when he brought it up to Fassbender, that he believes that they were hiding something from the computer, that Barb got it wiped, and that he didn't know what it was, and all this stuff. And then he writes a personal letter to the Hallbucks and says, "I'm nothing like Stephen or my brother Brendan. God be with you," all that stuff. The first time we ever see the Dassey computer enter Kathleen's argument is a supplemental motion, and that comes on the 1st of the 11th of 2017. And she actually uses it as a Brady. And that's when it has been denied as a Brady. So that right now is procedurally barred as being used as a Brady. Then on the 10th of the 11th of 2017, CASO 2.0, they start to interview Barb about the Dassey computer. You can be found on page 42. And then on the 17th of the 11th of 2017, they interview Bobby Dassey about the computer on page 48. Barb even states in her 2017 interview, for one, she says, Brad is blowing smoke up everyone's asses. That's not how it went. That the reason why she got the computer formatted in the first place was because the computer was running slow. There was something wrong with it. And this is why I incorporated that very first, one of the very first slides, which was Blaine Dassey's account on the computer saying that it had viruses. Now, this statement from him was made before any of this came about. So when Barbie's sitting there saying there was something wrong with that computer, I wanted it reformatted to make it faster because the boys were trying to do homework and they couldn't use it. In fairness to her, we have a report from Blaine stating that there was an issue with it. So anyone can interpret it any way they like, but it's a fact on the record, and I think that it should be factored in. And Bobby admits in his 2017 interview that he was a young fella and that he may have looked at the porn. He doesn't remember necessarily the, actual porn, but he doesn't deny completely. He does deny creating certain files, and he does deny the alleged torture porn and stuff and all the death-related incidences past that. So that's basically the end of that timeline in a format way. Now, let's open it up.
Yeah, that's really good, and well, it's all really interesting. I've talked at length before about what Kratz did. You gave it even more detail about how quickly he really got on it and got down to the courthouse there in early June and filed that third party Denny to bar Dean and Jerry from going after anyone else, even thinking about going after anyone else. So, we don't know what plans have been made. We don't know what conversations have been had. certainly, I think that, well, it's only speculation and a guess as to what Kratz was thinking in terms of, whatever they did to get Bobby to testify the way that he did. I think he was probably compromised by that point, and they were trying to make their plans, but they still had to go through. They still had a lot of, I say all this. Everybody needs to remember. Originally, the trial, Avery's trial, was supposed to happen in the fall of 2006. All right, so just everybody's aware of that. But it got moved because of several factors, but it got moved as to till February 2007. But I think it's really interesting that you brought that up. Now, with that said, and I got all excited a minute ago because I thought I'd found what I was looking for, but I didn't. But now I have. And if Jeff, there you go. There it is, right there. I found this actually. I could have swore we had this file separated out. I will make sure that I've actually done it while Cal was talking. I have separated this out into its own PDF. I sent it to you guys here in chat here, so you guys have all got a copy. But this number 4, and the reason I harp on Candy so much, and it's because of this right here. It's number 4. It's in the search. This is the Dassey search warrant. And we'll just read through it here. Your affiant is aware that Barb Yonder resides. That we won't go through that. Your affiant received information from Candy Avery that a computer was located in a bedroom at Barb Yonder's residence. Candy Avery stated that Brendan R. Dassey would frequently send instant messages and emails to her children using a computer located in the Yonder residence, both before and after October 31, 2005. Candy Avery indicated that the computer was located in a bedroom in Barb Yonder's residence, which was occupied by one of her sons, Blaine Dassey. Now, we're not the author of this. So, again, Bobby's name is left out of it. And hey, I'm not accusing Bobby of anything, but we all know that computer was in Bobby's room. We've seen the video. Now, I'm not saying it stayed there the entire time. It probably didn't. Hey, I would imagine it got moved, depending on. I know some people that they moved their main computer, a desktop to computers, to a different room for whatever reason. I'm sure it likely could have very well happened at their house as well. So it's not like a laptop, it's a little more involved, but nonetheless. So we know, and the reason I say and I bitch so much about Candy is because we know that they were after Marie starting in mid-November 2005. This shit continued on, and they stayed on her into January and February of 2006, and Candy was involved. This is the reason that I say, again, this is not dated. This doesn't necessarily prove anything. However, that thread is there. I mean, I can speculate and say I can make a leap back to February because we all know that Candy hated Stephen. He screwed her daughter, and he shouldn't have done it. So she's going to get a butcher knife after him and get her cut. And no matter how she had to do it, even if that meant screwing Brendan over, which is exactly what ended up happening. I do find it interesting. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it does. I do find it interesting that the computer in Candy's house wasn't taken to, verify blah, 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 which to me, I think should have been done, but that's me. I guess I'm talking about from an investigator's point of view. You've got it from one end, but you can easily verify it from the other end. It's right there. You don't literally have to travel almost none. You've obviously been in that house before, going over and then interviewing these girls, Kayla and Marie, and talking to Candy. And I'm sorry, I can see all this shit happening in my mind. I can't prove any of it, obviously. This is just me speculating. But this right here is in black and white. Wish it was dated.
Yeah, I definitely wish it was dated too. That would help me even put it into perspective of where it fits in the timeline.
Absolutely.
It becomes all relevant because what I was trying to format here and where I was following with this is in a sense, we all know I play the devil's advocate. That is my thing. And I like to bring balance. So this is me bringing balance. Let's look at it from an overall, like the other side. Let's open it up and just really review what it means. Stephen Avery is going on about the contents of this computer, that there's some really shady shit in it, that if anyone sees it, that there is going to be a lot of trouble. We now get an idea that they were probably most likely, although hashtags still a bit speculative, but it's open to interpretation, based on document facts and emails and now audio, that the plausibility of it being that the defense were going to use it as a part of their Denny motion and it being motive is quite high now. So, yeah, I just think, what does that mean for Stephen overall, though? And I think this is where I have seen the other side kind of say to me in conversations, listen, yeah, there was porn on the computer. And yeah, there turned out to be some pretty nasty, horrible looking shit, especially the underage alleged things. But how did Stephen know about it? How does Stephen Avery know all this stuff was on the computer?
That's like I said. I said this before. I think we probably not talked about it ad nauseum, but it's just like anything else. You get a group of people together. I mean, especially family. These people talk just like we talk. We're friends that we gather and we throw down. We throw it all out there. And with family, damn well they did the same thing. You see this shit out there? You downloaded on the computer? Did you see that? They talked about it. Of course they did. I'm sure that's how you knew.
Oh, absolutely.
Stephen's
And just, sorry, go for it, Brian.
Oh, no, it's all good. Stephen's pretty adamant or pretty specific in his affidavit to Zellner as to how little knowledge he had about Barb's computer and how often he saw it. But I do think that when you go back to the timeline of Stephen bringing this up, like, oh, Barb's, if they get Barb's computer, hell's going to be raised and this and that. It's good to note that from the 10th, the phone calls with Stephen from November 11th through about the 15th, 16th, 17th, the best evidence they had against Stephen, apparently, just judging on the phone calls, is the fact that Jody was looking up suicide and porn and stuff like that on Stephen's computer, and so they were trying to make that relevant. And Stephen didn't believe about the key, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know how the blood got in the rab. That's ridiculous." And oh, there must be chicken bones in my burn pit. But he seemed truly concerned about the searches that they were alleging on his computer, and he was like, "Well, Jody was looking up suicide because she was, taking rat poison and all that. And Ma didn't know anything about it." And, I mean, they discussed this for quite a few days, and even with Loy's investigator was over, and he was telling her to, hey, make sure she knows that Jody was the one doing all those searches on my computer. And eventually, it just blows over, obviously. But again, that's November. So by January, February, I mean, Steven's in a little bit different state of mind. Again, just going by the phone calls and stuff, and he kind of starts to get desperate, and he's kind of starting to pass the buck on anybody, because by then Earl and Candy are like against him, and he thinks Chuck thinks he's guilty, and some other folks. And then all of a sudden, Barb's computer becomes kind of a hot topic for Steven when he's talking, and he's like, "Don't tell anybody," but yeah, boy, if they find that computer. And so I really think that the whole thing was kind of schemed by Steven, and I could be completely wrong. I do think that Buting and Strang were probably, with the timeline that you just presented, probably going to try to use it in the Denny motion. When the Denny motion was wasn't allowed, basically, they just kind of dropped it. I don't think they knew exactly the content that was necessarily on the computer. It just wasn't relevant to them at the time. But either way, I mean, this is years before Zellner takes the case. So I don't know. Make it what you will, I guess.
I think that, personally, we have beat this horse to death. I do think that because Fassbender, he clearly knew, Bealey knew right away the contents of that computer were pretty sketchy. We don't have to get into any specifics about anyone. This was found in a house, so and during an investigation, even if nothing was per se done from a legal standpoint, saying going in and going in after and making charges against someone for downloading illicit porn across state lines and yada yada yada. Even if that conversation didn't happen, it should have happened. Something should have happened. Again, this is just an opinion from just an innocent person. I'm not a cop. I'm sure, and I know that wasn't necessarily their goal. However, at the same time, you have people that were within that household that were used to great degree by the state. I think it's just rotten. I think it's just absolutely rotten, and I think it was with intent that nothing was done. I don't know. I don't know the history of the state of Wisconsin as to when they found this kind of stuff. I'm talking about in real time. I'm talking about now. Things are different now, but back then, I'm not exactly sure what their track record was, and I guess that's relevant too. I really don't know.
I won't lie that it got a little bit frustrating for me as I was going through this timeline, and I was having to go back and obviously listen to all the phone calls and snip out the bits that were relevant because we didn't want to sit there and listen to 30 minutes of other conversations and lose focus. But you've got, this is no disrespect to Stephen, but the only reason why I got frustrating was because he makes a joke with Rowley on the 8th of April about how Strang had just gotten in trouble because Strang had told him, shut the fuck up and stop talking to people about shit. Shut up. And then on the next breath, on an open line that has access to the state, he's revealing strategies, allegedly, what their defense is going to be openly. And he's just been told to stop talking to the media, stop talking to family members, just stop talking about our case. Shh, we have a plan. Stop it. And yet he keeps doing it. And he keeps doing it till it all catches up on him. And Ken Kratz has a light bulb moment at whatever point it was and went, something about this Dassy computer. And like Jeff Jones said, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it first. I have the power. Yep. I'm taking it. And he did. So ultimately, the full circle came back around and eventually shot himself in the foot.
Well, I think we can all agree that he was his frustration level, for whatever reason, he couldn't deal with it, and he had access to a phone and the ability to. I mean, he clearly had a free reign for a lot of the time he was in jail. He could talk pretty much as he wanted. He didn't have to worry like Brendan did. Brendan always had to be concerned about his calling card, and those things weren't cheap. They were expensive. Even for somebody that had a little money, those things were expensive as hell. It's crazy, how much it cost Barb to keep those phone calls alive and going, or get him a calling card. It's crazy. But Steve didn't necessarily really so much have to worry about that. It all seemed to work out because I'm just going through calls myself personally. There are some days he makes 12, 15, 18 calls in a day. And some of those calls, they weren't necessarily all 15 minutes, but many of them were at least that long, if not longer. Sometimes they were 20, 25, 30 minutes, just depending. So, yeah, his frustration got the better of him, and he should have followed Dean's advice and kept his mouth fucking shut. I agree.
Well, yeah, it all came back to I think just stopping the defense strategy. I think they had a plan. They were working towards it, and let's face it, it's common knowledge. Like, I don't think, in a sense, you needed all this to kind of fall into Ken Kratz's lap to be tipped off as early as the 5th by Strang himself, by requesting the status of where this computer was. I'm going to use the word, the totality of it is the reality that if you're on trial for committing a murder and you're claiming it wasn't you, what is usually their defense? Well, it was somebody else. So maybe the defense, you know, I don't want to harp too much that it all came down to this DASI computer, because that's not fair. But what I'm trying to say is that the prosecution would have always been well aware that the defense's argument was going to be, it's not my client, it was somebody else. That's a given. As every trial you basically have. Was it me? Prove it was me. It was John Doe next door. But I think when you have these, you know, timelines and these events sequencing after each other, and if you're as crafty, I always call Ken Kratz the crafty cunt, and I really apologize because that is such a derogatory word for people, but he is one of the, you know, people in this case that I struggle with the most. His ethicness of how he handled the case and stuff, more so the press conference, that I think ultimately gives him that title. He saw it coming, he saw the opportunity, and he worked it out. He worked out that this DASI computer was going to be an asset to the defense team, and he took advantage of it. He took control and marched it straight into the courts and got it shut down as quickly as he worked it out. And I hate to say it, because ultimately maybe Brad Dassey was coming from a good place, but it doesn't help when a third party outside influence comes in and starts talking about it. So, you know, when a third party comes into the equation and starts saying there's a problem with the computer, it raises more flags. And then 3 days after Brad Dassey goes on record with law enforcement, movement happens.
Yeah, Fallon too. He's really crafty because he's so thoroughly intelligent about the Wisconsin law, the statutes, the regulations, probably even down to local, I mean, county-wide regulations and what's allowed. So he is really good too, and they were very successful in plotting their course to avoid these really major landmines that could have damaged their case. Somebody that wasn't really careful in their preparation and their motions and so forth. They're really good at that. I hate to say it, but he's extremely intelligent about it. I saw that right away years ago once we started getting documents.
Whew. So did we cover what you got here, Jack? The one that I just pulled up? Did we kind of go through that?
Yeah, I think we're. Yeah, I mean this is the Dassey search warrant. I think we're. You know, I'm going to make sure it's. I'm going to make sure it's available. I'm going to get yours or Zoe to actually get it as its own file. I've actually split it out and separated it. I really thought we had it in the library, but if we do, I can't find the damn thing because I looked for it and it's not there. At least I'm typing in Dassey search warrant and it didn't come up. So I'm going to make sure that we have easy access to that because I literally had to dig this document. I'm not sure if you looked at it on YouTube, but I actually pulled the Dassey search warrant out of Zellner's first amended motion after Suckowitz shut down her PCR back in 2017. That's where I found this search warrant file. It's not on its own, and it's not in the normal search warrant file that we've had for forever. It's not in there. So I'm going to make sure that we have easy access to that.
Nice. Appreciate that. That'll be nice
Yep.
to have.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. So, you know, we gotta see about an hour and a half into it. We've covered a lot of ground already in that hour and a half.
Did you get an earful? Did you get an earful? I think you did.
I think I did. I certainly did. I tried to disseminate that as best as I can. And, you know, just to recap what I said earlier is, you know, Ken Kratz got a whiff of part of maybe it wouldn't even have been a major part of their plan, but they thought it was an avenue worth checking. And when they went to check that avenue, Ken Kratz got a whiff of it and shut it down. He didn't know what was on there. The contents were not important at this time. He just knew they wanted something, so he wanted to shut it down. Like that's how I'm reading it.
I'm sure that I feel certain that they were listening to those conversations in real time. I have no doubt.
And that's what I mean, and that's why it was just falling into place. It was just all falling into place for them. And like T1 said, or were they protecting other Dassey boys? No, you got to separate this whole conspiracy that they worked out who the real killer was and all that. What I'm trying to say is the only thing that they were protecting was their case. And you need to shut down what is legal in the courts. And what is legal in the courts up until you present anything that can be taken out is a defense case. Like you're going to put forward your best, argument, your best defense argument. So what I'm trying to say is they weren't protecting the Dassey boys individually or as a whole. They were protecting the fact that if that would have been introduced, it could have raised reasonable doubt if played right in the trial.
Right.
And
that's right.
And I agree. It's, if anything, it was just an investigative avenue that they could have wanted to look at, because Stephen had been informing his team, hey, maybe it was Brendan, because at that we hear him that he's even questioning it himself, because he's like, well, if I didn't do it and Brendan's saying you did it, maybe you fucking didn't. I don't even know about it. So that was just an avenue that the defense team were looking at. But it all comes down to Ken just playing it to his advantage and taking it for what it was, and that was removing that obstacle that could have came into the trial if it came in, and then he would have had to have had the issues of Bobby Dassey, because you got to remember Bobby Dassey was a state witness, and if that Dassey computer did become part of the record and it passed through discovery and it went into evidence and they were allowed to use it in the trial for any impeaching moments, then that would have played a factor. And you hear Ken Kratz throughout the trial say, Your Honor, objection, where are they going with this? You can't point third liability here. So where is this questioning going? Because he was getting defensive, thinking that Dean and Jerry were trying to point to or kind of lead the juries to believe that there could be an alternative without a suspect, without actually being able to cross that line, because there was a fine line. And you could see Ken Kratz going, ugh, Judge, they're getting close to that line, shut them down. But Judge is like, well, they haven't actually accused anyone yet. They're not actually saying that it was someone else, so I'm going to allow it. And you could see Ken was just listening very intensively of where they were always going with that. So I think overall, the Dassey computer, raised as early as the 5th of April by his own defense team to the prosecutor, was a big sign to be aware of a strategy that the defense was taking. It's really that simple.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's, certainly not in any DCI reports that I've seen, but there are some reports that we don't have. I just wonder if there's any anything related to a date related to Candy contacting, Fassbender and or any other agent in the DCI. Of course, it would, he clearly talked to her at some point, but what did that communication? Well, first, when did it happen? And second, who did she talk to originally? Because she had been talking to Wiegert and Baldwin January, February. So what did that trail lead up to, and why would it necessarily have been handled? See, here's another part of this. See how crafty they were? They didn't use Calumet County. This all came through the DCI. That puts another twist on it, right? Because a lot of these reports we can't see. We still don't have today. I just wonder maybe there's not even a recorded conversation between one of these agents and Candy, if not more than one. They recorded a lot of conversations that you didn't. Well, they just recorded a lot of them, and I'm still trying to get an interview, which I think it was recorded of Jody. That I'm not being told no, but again, I've had this request in with the DOJ since August 23rd of last year, and I'm getting I won't say I'm necessarily getting a runaround, but no replies are basically getting runaround. I was told, a little over a month, 5 weeks ago, I think it was. Well, we're looking into it, blah, blah, blah. Well, my God, how long does it take to look and find out if you got a recording or not? Anyway, I just wonder if there's a record of some type of when that contact happened. I would really like to have it to go with Kel's timeline. That way we would know if they had another heads up from another direction, i.e. Candy, about these messages and something, and that could have led to something else that was on that computer. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. Anybody else have any comments just in general about before we kind of shift gears? Maybe look at something else.
Hey, I've got something you might. I've got something you might. Well, and I know we don't normally look at this kind of stuff, and I can just do this as a brief thing because this goes back to the 85 case.
All right.
And
time travel.
I was looking through some stuff the other night, just not looking for this specifically, but this goes back to Gregory Allen because we've talked recently quite a bit about Gregory Allen, and I'll share this document. And this is a surveillance document, and I don't know how many people have seen this or not seen it. Maybe very few. I don't know. But let me pull it up here, and we can just peruse through it just quickly. I know I didn't bring this up to land on and talk about it a lot unless people just want to. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. And it should pop in there once you get her loaded. And this is the City of Manitowoc Police and their surveillance on Allen, and it reads pretty bad. I got to tell you. And you can see this is 7/17, and you probably can't see my cursor, but this is July 17th at 2:30. But this is a full-page report. Clearly, it's got Richard Bray, the detective, and it's got Allen listed there. And just briefly, I'll just read just a little bit of this right here. This department has compiled several complaints recently concerning prowling, window peeping, indecent exposure, and sexual assault, ranging from January 85 through July 14th, 85. Okay, so January through July. In each case, Gregory Allen, gives his date of birth, which is in the 50s, 54, I think, who presently resides at gives his address, has been listed as a suspect. Past record and intelligence concerning Gregory Allen reveals he is a dangerous individual with potential for violence. Recent complaints involving Gregory Allen on file are as follows, and it gives the case numbers there. Starting this date, shift commanders should assign various officers of the surveillance of blank, and more particular, all officers must be aware of vehicles being used by Gregory in an event they are observed parked in any part of Manitowoc. They should immediately start making checks, particularly of the backyards of a suspect. Anyway, it goes on. Like I said, I'm not going to read it all, but it outlines a pretty significant notation. Watch this guy. Now, again, you think about surveillance, I think in a couple of different ways. To me, surveillance for Allen was keep an eye on him. That doesn't mean sit on his house. That doesn't mean rent the house across the road from where he lives in his apartment complex and tap his phone and like hiding, you see in a TV drama. But this is as you go out throughout your day, check his driveway for his car. Check just as you go out through your assigned shift, keep an eye on this guy. Anyway, it goes throughout and lists various different checks. See, 7:15, 1,500 hours, 7:17. It's got the times listed there. Anyway, I just ran across this document and I thought it was interesting and just thought I'd share it. And if anyone wants this document, just let me know and I can certainly make that available as well.
Sorry, JJ, I was just doing something. Can you just recap what it is again? Were they surveillancing who?
Gregory Allen back in '85.
Oh shit!
This is like I said, and there's a number. This is a. I'll start here at the top. It basically, Carol, is it's a surveillance report on Gregory Allen. This was written. It's dated on 7/17. Obviously, this is when it was started because it goes after this a few days. Anyway, it starts off, this department has compiled several complaints recently concerning prowling, window peeping, and indecent exposure. Assault ranging from January of '85 through July 14th of '85. And in each of these cases, Allen is basically listed as a suspect. I mean, this guy was ramping it up. We know that he was. So this lists off a number of different events where he was observed. And again, I was talking about surveillance in the sense of they didn't assign specific people to watch him 24/7, but they basically told their officers keep an eye on the guy. And you drive nearby, whatever, check his driveway, watch for his car. If you see his car parked somewhere it shouldn't be, make note of it. Check the backyard. Look for him, because this he's clearly violent. So anyway, it lists off different dates and times where these various officers noted him. So I thought it was an interesting doc for people that are interested in the '85 case and how it played out and how the ball was completely dropped in this. Anyway, this is, like I said, it's a 4-page document. I saw it and I thought it would be a little interesting little side piece of information for people to have that maybe had never seen it before. And as I said, if anybody wants the document, all they got to do is let me know. This is probably posted. Well, I don't want to say that. I don't know if it's in that large file we have or not. It probably is. There's a huge file. It's got a number of reports in it that were compiled from at Green Bay. But I don't know that this specific report is in there because it is Manitowoc. So, and I can't remember if Christina and I presented this when we were doing that series on Allen back last year. I can't remember if we showed this or not. I think we did, but I'm not positive. Anyway, it's all about that one.
It's quite interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think some pretty interesting points come up, from the chat about, maybe these cases aren't always seen as just, 3 different cases. They kind of all tie together. But the problem is the more that you try to make these connections, it keeps spider webbing out bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think you don't want to live with the spiders, right? You want to live with the facts. So you gotta maintain that some of these people overlapped. I mean, that's when you know there's something up. When you continually see the same person's name over and over again, that's when you get most interested in that. Yeah, thank you, Jack, for bringing that forward.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know. Maybe Kel, did you still have something to say, or did you get it out in the last?
Oh, I definitely got it out.
Okay.
think we kind of concluded that whole timeline.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for listening, and it's a little bit to soak in. I was stressing as I was doing it. I try to simplify it as much as I could because there's quite a lot of information and the dates can get a little bit not all over the place, but it's just following along is hard to understand the relevance of what come first, and then why is that significant? So I really did try to make sure everyone can connect to it, and that's why I did that kind of summary in the middle, like why I was realizing as I was going along in this timeline how it was all coming together. And I think the beauty of this live and doing it out on a video is you can always go back and rewatch till it makes sense. Sometimes I don't articulate it the way other people understand it. So yeah, thanks for letting me do it, Jeff,
Absolutely.
on this channel anyway. It's
super cool.
just a little bit of a foundation for us to go off, because, and this is why I say it's a jigsaw puzzle, because all this information is like the puzzle itself. It's been all over the place, and all I've done is I've just come along, I've grabbed all of the relevant pieces and just started putting it together. And I'm finding that's what I've been doing lately with all my research is I've just go along. I know that, and the truth is there's a lot of stuff we don't have, and that's why essentially we can't complete the rest of the puzzle, because we don't have access to certain things, and they're not releasing things like Jay Jack just said. They're getting difficult, they're getting harder, and they're rejecting more things and stuff. So it doesn't complete where you go with it, something you start, but it gives you a foundation of something. Yeah.
I have a question then. Thank
Yeah.
you, Kel. I have a question then for you just as well, Kel, for everybody. Like, if there was no motive prong, right? If you didn't have to worry about that part, would the computer ever even come into play at all? If that part didn't exist in the case? And I think no, but that's just me.
Good question, because I was going to ask.
That is a really good question.
Do people think that Budin and Strang may have actually researched the computer a little bit, kind of overlooked the some of the content, went more along with the timelines, and decided that all the boys were looking at porn and this isn't even relevant? Does anybody think that that's a possibility?
Well, if there was no motive prong, there's no connection to Teresa Halbach, I guess, is my other point. Like the big thing. It's just like the only reason that exists is because the rules that are written say you need to prove motive, or you need to present motive. You don't need to necessarily prove, but you need to present a logical avenue for why someone did it. But the more and more that we learn, the more I at least come to the acknowledgement that it doesn't really make a lot of sense to worry so much about the motive, like the why, because sometimes you don't know why, and sometimes there's not a good answer. But I think it's just our human nature to we want the answer. We want to know specifically why this happened, for causality, for our own sanity, I think sometimes. But I don't know. That's why I go back and forth. Why this whole computer, all this talk about this computer, it was because they were searching for any kind of implementation, any tool they could use to create a defense. Had that not been part of it, they would have never went down this road. The email would have never been sent out. The computer would be sitting in Barb's basement right now, or thrown out. You know what I mean? No one would have found interest in it. And so that's just where I feel like, because we talk a lot about the motive prong and how other jurisdictions don't have a motive prong. It's not always part of law. Like if you go to the UK, they don't have that. I believe it's the UK. I could be speaking out of school there, but I know there are places that don't have that motive prong. Anyway, that's kind of my question to you guys.
Well, it's a bloody good question, because it's making my brain just go tick, 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 and I'm like, all these things are coming into my head, and I'm like, slow down. As T1 would say, take a Valium. I think for me, this is where we're at now, though, in terms of the DASI computer, right? And that is, the argument is the DASI computer even relevant now? Now, Kathleen's trying to say it is, because it's establishing the motive that is in Wisconsin laws required to meet Denny prong. Yet the state are saying, no, you are not only misrepresenting it, you've stretched it in terms of the idea of what it means as a motive. And you're referencing things like the Dressler case, you're citing that, and it has no mirror effect. theoretically, the question we have to ask ourselves with the PC computer is, minus all the pornography itself, the vanilla stuff, I'll call it, where you're looking at camel toes and other certain very low-key, standardized pornography. It's the intent. Is there intent in there, and is there anything in there that has direct connection to the specificness of Teresa Halbach's crime? That is the state's point now. They say in their reply, and I quote, Kathleen or Stephen Avery and counsel can't even point out one directive search that matches the exact motive or the exact intent to the crime that is on record for the death of Teresa Halbach. And the reality of it is, the pornography, what we see, starts in 2005. It flows on until the day even that it's taken. Yet it's the in-between. It's the relevance of Kathleen's not in a sense saying, and when you read all her experts, like testimonies, and you really digest it, they're not even identifying the vanilla porn. They're kind of just saying, yeah, it is there. What they're trying to do is they're trying to establish that there was a build-up in terms of the underage stuff that we see on the 18th of September of 2005, which I want to remind everyone was a Sunday. So the relevance to that isn't even strong on the face value, because anyone and everyone had access to it. And then all the files and the dates that they were able to get back in the Valet, and then the Hunt, her own expert Hunt report, it happens after the fact. It's the 18th of April of 2006. It's the 19th of April of 2006. And if everyone's asking me, okay, well, how do you know that? Kathleen has actually submitted to the public in an exhibits some timestamps with that in it, and we can identify the date and the time it was happening. And this is the issue that I'm having at the moment when I'm going back and I'm reviewing all this, is because I fear the exact reasoning behind the state and their reasons is strong, because I cannot find a direct link. You know, for example, and me and Kath has spoken about this privately in a private platform, but we're open to express it now. But it'd be different right now if the argument was that they found how do I burn a body, or how do I plant DNA, or how long until blood coagulates. If those kind of searches were on the computer, I would be like, hands down, we have something here. But we don't have anything. We also have things like people hang on to things like the gun to the head search. But what people, I don't know whether people are just not reading the full content around it, or whether they're just not going, they're just picking what fits and helps Kathleen now. But when you read the entire content of that whole page, it's not gun to the head as you see it. It's gun to the head quotes and gun to the head sayings. It's little things like that I think that's what the state's constantly trying to point out in terms of this Dassey computer. It has no relevance to it, like nothing. There is nothing in here that is connecting to Teresa. It's circumstantial at best, and you can't even prove who was behind the computer. Yes, it doesn't exclude Bobby Dassey, but you can't just also exclude him in when you have no proof that he would even be home that day just because he's not at work. And that was one of the biggest things that even the courts of appeal made in their reference to Kathleen in her original motion. The only proof you have ever submitted that Bobby Dassey was behind these searches was because it was an expert's word that he's opining the thought that he's at home because he wouldn't be at work that day. Just because he wasn't at work that day doesn't factor in that he could have been at the shops, he could have been hunting, he could have been visiting friends, he could have been staying with his dad. You can't just instinctively say because he's not at work, he will just be at home. And that goes for all the Dassie boys. You have to factor in all the variables, sick days, school holidays, half days. We've now got that information. There is now documents that's finally been released that is showing that these factors, I don't know, have been considerably extracted enough by Kathleen's team, because I've read her motion, and she's very, very direct, and she really comes across like this is only Bobby Dassie because Blaine is at school, Brennan is in jail, and Barb is at work. But then we have reports now that show that Blaine, on these days that she has opined, that she has put in so much, into her emphasis that it's only Bobby, now Blaine's at home sick with hives. So great question. I don't even know how you could even answer that, because there's so many factors about the Dassie computer. But in an overall sense, if you took out the Dassie computer, you're still where we're at now, because the Dassie computer even now isn't playing any relevance, like anything. It doesn't mean anything right now unless Kathleen is able to make those direct links to Bobby and only Bobby, and you can't do it with limited information. Sorry about that tongue twister. I've got things happening in the background here. I have to mute for a minute. I have to leave for 2 seconds. I have someone here at my door.
No worries, Cal. Thank you so much. I'm with you on what you just said there, though, Cal. I know that there's a lot to, my own personal view, like there's a lot to be said about the computer, and you can really go down some rabbit holes down there. And, as Big Jeff likes to say, a lot of times when you go down these rabbit holes, all you do is find more rabbits and more rabbit holes. So, I think it doesn't really play relevance. Now, you guys are all have your own opinion about it, right? But I just don't see how after the fact searches have ever have any relevance to a crime that happened months and months earlier. I think it's a stretch to begin with. That's just my personal opinion. I think that it's almost become a distraction. I'm sorry, but I kind of feel that way. Like okay, it is what it is. But I think what you laid out for us about the timing of it and who wanted it when and why did they want it, the motive to get their hands on it, that's why. Because they thought it was something. Whether it's something or not, they wanted it. And that's how I feel about it. So I just think that there's other parts to but anyone, Calf, Jack, Brian, jump in.
Well, I can address the child porn quick. I mean, there's no excuse for it. Jack's brought it up. Brought it up in the comments, but it's not related. It's not related to Teresa. I mean, she was a 25-year-old woman. Why they didn't, look into it after the fact, I have no idea. Not excusing anybody's lack of investigation into that, obviously, but I mean, Stephen himself, he's accusing all of the boys. Like he's not pinpointing it. So the computer, it's I don't know. It's hard to say that Booting and String didn't even look into it, other than it after they ruled on Denny, it was pointless for them. You've got to pinpoint it like Zellner has to one person, and then you've got to make it relevant. And yeah, the searches leading up to even shortly after October 31st, 2005 are they just don't relate to the case, which I mean I don't, which makes me think that again, not excusing the state or Kratz or anybody by any means for their piss poor investigation. I think maybe they just overlooked it. I mean, it almost again, Fassbender could probably have framed Stephen all by himself. I just want to say that he wouldn't have needed Manitowoc County. He wouldn't have needed Calumet County. He just needed Cherry Culhane, and that was, the state, the crime lab, and that's it. Fassbender could have done it. Frame Stephen all by himself. So saying that, it almost even brings relevance to what Fassbender asked Velli to, the specific search terms that he asked Velli to look for, because Stephen truly thought that Dassie computer was going to be his key to freedom, basically. You just got to pin it on somebody, and then, like I said, then they denied the Denny motion, and boom, that's it. Um, Candy Avery's got to play a part somewhere, because I mean, she was, well, Kayla, but still, she was pretty significant in getting Brendan arrested too. So I really would love to know when Candy was in contact about the instant messages.
Well,
stuff,
you and
but
Jack and me both, I think, you know.
Yeah, I think it's really relevant. Obviously, I mean, you have to go through it and read um, the whole process from, I say, mid-November 2005, where Wendy Baldwin really goes after Marie, and then the carryover into January, February, and get the gist of what's being said to her, and she's resisting and resisting. She doesn't want anything more to do. Clearly, Candy was involved, and you have to not only read those documents. You got to listen to some of the phone calls, and I'm talking about the Brendan jail calls where Candy does talk to Brendan, and there's just I don't know. My radar is solid red. The needle's buried with her. I think she played a significant role behind the scenes in this. That's just my feeling. I don't necessarily think that people have to agree with Jack. It's just what I see.
oh, I do agree with you, Jack.
Well, thank you.
I find myself agreeing with you more often than not there, Jack.
I try to keep it, thinking from her side of it as a mom, to her kid. It was stupid what Stephen did in any capacity whatsoever, and I don't care. He had other outlets to go sow his oats, and not just young. I don't care if it's blood related or not. She's number one. She's half his age, but number two, being right there in this family relationship is just stupid. So, but from her standpoint, I get it. She's pissed off and mad. There are other factors too, but yeah, I would really like to know when that contact happened. How did that work out? We just said, "Hey, look, you call my pal, my partner here, and let's see what we can do from that angle." Because it is strange to me that all these other warrants are written by, went through Calumet County or Manitowoc through Wiegert, but this one didn't. It went through Fassbender. Fassbender's the one that was the hammer. So, yeah, I'd really like to know. Now, I've shared. We don't have to do it. I just pulled these up because we had gotten through some of these. We certainly didn't get through all of them. And I thought before we took off tonight, we could run through a few more of these grand shoot photos. They're interesting. They're actually took the time to download them to my computer while we've been talking here. I thought I had them. I've probably got them on my external drive somewhere buried. I've got so many files, guys. It's not even funny.
Well, we gotta use those files, man. We gotta show them and share them. This is so much fun. I like this section that we do, this little corner of our live where we look through these photos, because I think it really helps establish the scene. I really
the
do.
visual. Yeah, the visual. Yeah. It's always good to hear the audio, and it's always great to see the visual. I have to agree with you. We can see the pool here that, we hear about the phone call. Well, talking about Stephen answered the door in a towel, and I think about this damn pool. We see the visual of it right there. I'm going to just go through these if you guys want me to stop
if you're
or
in
back
and out
up.
of the pool all day, if you're in and out of the pool all day and you answer it doesn't,
Well,
I just want to say this. Sometimes people don't realize their own behavior. They don't have that, reflection to realize how creepy this looks. They just think I came out of the pool and I had a towel on. You know what I mean? And yeah. Anyway, that's all I want to say on that.
Sure.
And I wish I had one of those pools because I like those.
Hey, well, that's not actually for a trailer. That's actually a nice little pool. You get out there and take a dip, especially if it's hot. Man, I'm sure this time of year when this is November. let's see if we can get a date here. I think. Let's see. Where's the info button?
Yeah, I'm kind of
This
jealous
was-
of that. I'm not gonna lie.
This is November 11th on the metadata here. So
Okay.
yeah, it popped in there. It's up the top. I'm going to say it's correct. This is Grand Shoe, so I'm going to say it's correct. So we'll go from that. We'll go with that. Anyway, I'm going to scan through these. If you guys want me to stop at any point, zoom in, whatever. Clearly, this
Okay,
is
cool.
yeah, this is from
Yeah,
the
maybe
Corey.
zoom in on this stuff because these are high def pics, so you can kind of zoom in and see what the trail looks like. This is the famous, infamous trail between Cuss Road and Stephen Avery's trailer that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. It keeps coming up, so
That's
getting
right.
a view of this is really helpful. For me.
Yeah, I absolutely love pictures. I love looking at them, and having high definition ones is really good.
It certainly gives a better perspective, I think.
Yeah.
The visuals always better. So yeah, this clearly is coming from where the camera guy is, whoever's taking the photo for Grand Shoot. Behind him is Cuss Road and all that shit, the cul-de-sac.
Okay, so this is the trail that Josh Redant would go down to visit Stephen. This is the
That's
actual
right.
trail.
That's right.
Right, very interesting.
That's right.
So
Cuss
you don't
right
really
down
see a
through
lot
there.
of tracks. I mean, we see that it's a roadway because there's no brush there, but we don't see a lot of fresh, muddy track. So it doesn't look like the terrain was overly wet at this time.
I'm not entirely sure that the bob hoe or the front end loader or whatever hadn't went down through here and
I still don't see much of an indentation in that. So
no, I don't either.
I don't think you're going to see any kind of track. It doesn't look like it's overly muddy at all.
No, that's right. I guess with the Bobcat, with the front end loader or the Bobcat, you would have seen there would have been some kind of track there. Yep, absolutely.
So it's pretty firm ground around.
At this point, is well, apparently that by this point,
what are they putting this flag on? They don't even know. They're just putting flags out. Sometimes I feel like they're like,
well,
let's just put a flag here because
there's a hole here. There's a hole here. Looks like they've dug something up.
Hang on a minute. So when they say that they believe that the RAV, according to the dog reports, crossed the field, why would it cross a field when it can just take that path, that roadway we're looking at there?
Yeah, that's damn curious, isn't it? Yep.
I find that interesting.
What would those holes be from? That doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Like, how would that be related to a crime? Or it's just strange, out of the ordinary, so they took a picture of it?
Well, unless the dogs have hit at a certain point there, one of the cadaver dogs said, "Hey, I smell something here. Dig it up." I don't know.
But nothing was collected there, so not that I know of, anyway. So, anyway, cool. Oh yeah, it's like a reverse view now. If you turned around,
that's
this
right.
is what you see. Okay, that's Cuss Road out there.
That's right. Well, I mean, it's
right.
And,
yeah. I think
that's what they
Go ahead.
class as the berm.
I guess this would be the berm, yeah.
Right. And the dogs hit on that quite a bit, didn't they?
I don't know if that's the same berm that you're thinking of. I think that one is
my coordinates in my head.
Well, maybe as we scroll through, we'll kind of okay. So again, they're taking a flag there. They're saying something's here, but
no idea what
from it. We don't know if anything even ever results from these flags that they're putting out. They just
there's a fucking stick there, Jeff. I have no idea, man.
Yeah, it's like it just looks out of place. Throw a stick down and take a picture because that's what we do.
There's a fresh branch sitting there too. What happened to the brush that Josh was getting Stephen to burn? Where's that?
It's burned.
Had that even happen?
I thought that they said they'd gathered up some brush and had burnt. I thought, but I don't know where it was stacked up at.
Well, I remember Stephen saying in a call he hadn't gotten around to it yet, but I've never seen a picture of it in a pile or actually
He
any
did tell
picture of
Barb
him.
that one time that he was burning stuff that one night, which might not even have been that Monday. It might have been a couple days earlier. And there's like a little fight over some tires. And so he definitely had a fire within that time frame. And
Yeah.
I'm just assuming
But
that's
in
when he
a
burned
phone
it.
call, the brush with Joshua was mentioned, and Stephen said, I hadn't even gotten around to that yet,
Oh, okay.
like, as
All
in
right,
burning
maybe.
it.
You know, it would be nice if we had an index or something that we could go along and say, okay, this is H. This is
Oh,
what
H. Yeah, that would be good, but that's no. Jack.
Yeah, right.
That would be organized. Why would we see? It's like, when I see that, I see it looks like some wild pig or something did that. I wouldn't think twice about that.
Is that a tire track in there? Is that a track?
Like it got stuck there? Because why would it drive in and then because it doesn't go through? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
I mean, it could be a 4-wheeler tire track. I mean, an ATV. You know what I mean? Who knows?
You know what it looks like? It looks like a front loader's tire.
I mean,
And,
maybe.
and that could drive over that too without a problem.
You guys talk for a second. My daughter's home. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no worries. And I'm thinking, that's a problem with all this stuff because this could have no consequence. This could just be them in a regular work that they do. They have to go over here and they take the equipment and they move it over here. So unless there's a report to go along with, like Jack said, unless we can see, could be a shoe print, maybe. Unless it says H, and in H, then they write a report and include H in it. I mean, I don't know what that flag represents. We can guess all night till the cows come home, but unless, I mean, they're high definition pictures, but I don't know what they're going to show.
Yeah, true.
Bigfoot, yeah, maybe it's a Sasquatch thing. I mean, Bigfoot did it. Hey, it's the same as saying that the aliens could have come in and dropped that key, as according to Kacharsky, who said, I don't know, I guess aliens could have done it.
Here's another angle of that same thing. That's H as well, and that's where it looks like a tire track in there. But
is it anything, or is it just?
It looks like someone's been doing some digging.
I don't think it's anything, to be honest. I think a lot of that stuff is just, that's something. Put a flag down, take a picture, so we can fill out our time cards.
Yeah,
it's almost what it seemed like. And another angle is the same shed of nothing. And another one.
And then the important stuff, Jack. What do?
Don't see it.
Forget to take a picture.
Yeah, or let the DVD degrade to where it's not viewable anymore. We're still on H here. It looks like they've taken a lot of photos of this thing for some reason. And there's a shovel.
Well, now they got the shovel out.
So maybe I'm wondering if the dogs hit there and they've dug with the shovel.
That's what I'm guessing. That's just a guess.
I might have a look and see if I can see a
report,
some sort of item number or something.
Well, do you see any dog trails here? I mean, do you see any dog print? Just to be fair, like if there was a dog there, you're going to see a dog print.
Well, I mean, if the dogs came through, Dave, they're saying this is on the.
Although if a big piece of equipment didn't leave a mark, I don't know that a dog necessarily would either.
This is the 11th, so
11th.
I don't. Yep, that's what it's dated November 11th.
Wow. Okay, so the day before the property's handed back.
I really thought that the grand chute was there before then, but what do I know? I was thinking they were there the 9th, and the 10th, but maybe I'm wrong. And another photo, and they've clearly they've been after something in these. There's a hole there and a deeper one beside it. So I don't know, man. I'm like you guys. I think though that this was a dog hit and they've dug. Okay, now looks like at the back of the Avery salvage yard, they're taking stuff. That don't make sense though. Still saying the 11th. I guess they could still be there, but messing around on the 11th. Okay.
Okay, I've got sort of a picture of where the dogs have hit. I've got one hitting, I think, in that area, if I can get my head around of exactly where we are. But it was the 10th. But it was the 10th. So I'm just going to look up and just see exactly.
Well, that would be the
Which
day
dog?
before that these pictures supposedly were taken, so that might really fit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, let me just see what dog it was and what was happening. I'll just
And that was
quickly
Adam.
read.
That was Adam H. Calf. There's a little portable generator.
Looks like it's brand new, man. They really
It does.
enjoyed jacking
Sure.
up the bill, jacking
Well,
up
of
the bill
course.
for Calumet County, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, they're, Manitowoc paying for it. So, hey, run down to, Granger Supply or wherever and get whatever generator you guys think you might need for the future and just get it. I'm not sure what they were running the generator for, though. I don't see any lights over here at all.
Yeah,
What
you'd
were they
kind of
using?
think they would just run it off of Steven's house and jack up his bill.
Just trying to think what they were. You can clearly see the extension cord there for something. I don't know.
Maybe they
All right,
didn't
we'll
even
move on.
use it. They just bought it because they wanted it for later.
Hey, that's possible. Here's a good view, though. You think about going back to Pam Sturm. I would have stayed there. We'd have stayed there all day looking at these cars. Yeah, okay. That's just one section there.
Come back tomorrow if we had to. Sounds
Yeah.
so suspicious to me.
Just an insane amount of cars. And see, there's a lot of water here. And I'm questioning the dates here because, we know that it rained like hell, on the 5th, that time frame, and we still say it still says November the 11th in the metadata. This is 10:26 in the morning, according to the metadata.
No, is
They're doing.
that a picture of a cow there, huh?
There's.
Now, what could they possibly be doing? Think about that. Because when bones were actually discovered, they took it to a sorting facility, and you got this guy. They're just taking out chunks from the skidster. They're just picking up big chunks of the dirt, laying it out on the ground, and then having this guy
with a rake
see if he can't find something. All
with a rake.
All super science like.
That's a rake, by the way.
Jesus. I'm glad these guys aren't in charge of opening the sarcophagus, the sarcophagi in Egypt.
Yeah, you wouldn't see much. Sorry, guys, it got destroyed.
Yeah, and they stole the gold too.
Yeah.
Right, no medical examiner. This is not like they're taking a picture. I said it before, Jack, and I was kind of joking. But it's like, no, we did work. You got to pay our paycheck now. Like, that's what it looks like to me.
Well, that guy's certainly holding that rake up. He's doing a pretty good job.
They used to sell those shirts with the upside down pocket, Jack, so you could lean on the rake.
Well, there you go. Even better. More visuals of the yard there.
Fantastic.
And you can see here this path on this. You can see where this kind of leads up to the Avery. This is where this path comes to. You can see it there.
I mean, that looks frequently used by vehicles.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure it was. And more back around to the front now.
Stevens burn barrel is like right where this person is taking the picture.
Well, over to over to the right there. Yeah.
So like think about that when we've been, saying like, anyway, continue. I'm just trying
Well,
to.
more. No, you're fine. From where he's standing right there, I mean, the burn barrel is probably approximately behind them, actually. Some of these are almost okay. Now here we are. Don't know exactly orientation wise where this is. I'm not. This may
There's
cut through the.
actual tracks there though. We haven't really seen any tracks before.
Well, this is. I see some gravel here. I'm not exactly sure what this road. I don't know if this is a conveyor road or.
I mean, that's an actual down. Now go down on the photo. Go down all the way to the bottom of the photo. Check. Down, right there. I mean, that's fairly fresh.
Yep.
Somebody turned around, right? They did a Y turn.
What it looks like. I'm just thinking orientation wise, where is this in the yard? And I'm not sure if it's conveyor road or what. But clearly, you can still see there's a hell of a lot of water.
Can you zoom into the right half of there and see? Because that might help us get our bearing. Oh, yeah. Now we can kind of tell. We're on the far side. It looks like we're on the far side of the east.
That's what I'm saying.
Southeast corner of Avery Salvage Yard.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if this is
southwest corner.
Well, I'm wondering if it's part of Conveyor Road. There's a road that cuts through. Yeah. Okay, there's a flag up here on the hill for something. It's been, no idea. Maybe they'll walk up to it. Nope, still back behind it. Okay, here's a little closer view of something that they've flagged. Trying to see. Oh, didn't that say utilities? It does say
like
utilities.
A utility, yeah,
Yep.
It could be.
So it's a don't dig. It's a don't dig flag.
Right.
Yep. Danger. Electrical cable. There you go. I don't know why they've taken so many damn photos of it, but okay. Ah.
Well, did they just buy those and they were using those as their primitive marking tool? And it's
I would imagine because they knew they were going to be potentially digging in certain areas. They may have had somebody from the utilities come out and flag that for them. But I see something in here in the grass. I don't like some kind of necklace or I can't tell what that is. Or spoon or.
I think somebody said that earlier. A necklace. I saw that in the chat. Is that what they were talking about? I think it might have been Maz.
Looks like this is item J, whatever this. If CAF can find anything in some kind of those reports. Okay, now it looks like we're more over into the quarry area.
Oh, we got the tape measure out. This is some serious science going on, guys.
Yep, and a flag.
So he's measuring the size of this. Now, doesn't this kind of look like a charred, dumped bottom of a burn barrel? Not like a natural place where something was burned?
What it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Yep. What do you think, Brian? Is that what you're getting?
Yeah, that or dog poop.
I mean, it's not a burned site, right? It doesn't look like that's where that was burned. It looks like that was where that was dumped.
Absolutely. And I think they found, of course, I mean, that looks like a wet ash pile.
There you go. Yeah. That's why I think bottom of a burn barrel. That's where my mind goes. I've seen it.
What it looks like. Yep. That's exactly what it looks like.
The thing is like that might not mean anything because Redaunt would be like, hey, this burn barrel's getting pretty full. Well, march it off into the quarry somewhere and dump it and then bring back the empty burn barrel. Like,
there you go.
It might not have anything to do with anything. That's
right.
That's the red herring that we have to worry about. And we have to be honest about it. Not every piece of clue that we see is related to Teresa Halbach.
Agree. I'll say one thing: Grand Chute was very thorough in the photos they took, because they took multiples of nothing a lot of times.
I do like the pictures that we're getting.
Yeah, I mean, these were good that Euros got. And another one of K. Of course, it's kind of shadowed there. It's really difficult to see because it's down in that damn rocks are blocking the sun. You can't really see shit.
Look like the same. It kind of look like the same spot, just a different picture.
They are. They're just different angles of the same thing. And they even took
I have to ask the question: if your burn barrel is full, where are you going to dump it?
Well, found a quarry like that. That's going. Hey, find a spot out there and just dump the damn thing, right?
That's right. It's
That's
not
what I
rocket
do.
science here, folks. You're going to see that somewhere. It would be It would be weird not to see that, actually.
Yeah, because I think they had a number of burn barrels out, scattered throughout the quarry side.
Redon had at least one that I know of. They had at least 2 or 3 that are on, on foot. We have footage of them in the quarry. Darcy's had 2. Avery had 1. Chuck probably had 1, at least personally, maybe 1 for the business. Then they, I'm getting off track here, but
it was just what we've talked about it before. They're common in a rural setting. They're very common.
I mean, my neighbors growing up, my mother used to always complain because she'd be like, "Oh, they're burning their garbage again. You could smell it."
Yeah, I mean, even we didn't live out in the country, but there were people that lived, relatively nearby. They had a burn barrel out in the back of their property, and all certain things would get burned. It did, a lot of times it smelled like hell. It stunk. Pretty common. And this is even more rural than where I grew up. So
yeah, why don't we can we take a closer pick at what he's dialed in? I mean, do we ever get a picture of what he's taking a picture of right now? Does that resemble anything you?
Well, I don't know. It looks like he's on some kind of stick or maybe that might be a piece off of a pallet or something, because it looks like a 1x6 or something. There may be a closer. There may be a closer. Well, there we go. Here's a better photo.
Deer bone.
Yeah, I guess it could be. Yeah.
I don't know. Or is it a piece of wood? I mean, I guess you don't know.
I can't tell.
Yeah, I'm not.
Something's weird going on with it right there, but.
Or is it just kind of stick out so they take a picture of it? Like I said before, they're getting their stamp. They're getting their time card stamped. There's a piece of cloth right next to their tool. Do you see that? Black.
Yeah.
Charred. What is that?
Yep, and something right here.
Yeah, that seems more interesting than what they're taking a picture of.
Here's a lid off of something. Looks like some kind of can.
Nice eye. Yeah, it does look like a lid off a can. See what I'm saying? Lid off of a can, bottom of a burn barrel. That's all you're seeing.
That's right. It's just trash. It's not relevant.
It's fucking trash. Excuse my French.
Yeah, I think that the other stuff is more interesting than that damn deer bone or whatever the hell that was. It doesn't look like it doesn't. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but it doesn't look human to me. What is? Okay, that's something. That's a little small bone of some kind. Looks like.
Right, but how would you be like, oh, that's definitely human, unless?
No, there's no way.
From the Bones TV series, I think that's the only person.
Well, and it's clearly if it had been burned, I don't think this would be black and not bleached white. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
Where's Doc? We need Dr. Soapman in here. Where the hell you at, Doc?
Where you at, Doc? What is this? I don't know. Like string laid out there? What was that? Can you scroll down a little bit?
That's bark.
Oh, never mind. It's not a string.
Okay, so I obviously can't find anything when I need it. The closest I came to was a bloodhound by the name of Raz, who, before walking her way west towards the gravel pits from where she headed south along a berm with the junkyard on the east side and the gravel pit on the west side, and showed major interest in the east side of this area, jumping up on me to indicate that the scent was very strong in that area. From there, she headed back towards Stephen Avery's house. That's all I can find so far, but I'm pretty sure that there's maybe alert number 13 or 14 along there, and that's the bit I can't find for some reason.
All this shit here, guys. It looks like,
Looks
like
that
you said,
somebody dumped out their burn barrel.
exactly what it
That
looks like
stuff
to me
right there on
too.
the top is not even burnt. Zoom in on that all the way. That's from the top, you know? Like it didn't even
What
get
area
charred.
is this? What area is this
It's in
picture?
the quarry. It's in the
Oh,
quarry
in the quarry.
somewhere.
What's that green label straight down there, Jack? Right there. What's that?
Oh, you know what that is? I looked at that
Vegetable?
before. It's brining. It's salt brining for when you brine. You know.
Oh, for a water softener.
Yeah, pickles and things like that. You know, when you brine.
Oh, yeah,
something.
yeah, okay.
That's a salt bag.
Pickling salt.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep, I'm like you, Jeff. I think that this is just the remains of a burn barrel that's just got dumped out. And this is letter M.
Oh, yeah, with the letters again.
Yeah, we've well, you've been looking.
Yes, I can't remember ever reading anything labelled lettering, but surely there's something. I'll have another quick look.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's in the dog reports. I don't know, Kath. I just can't remember. I don't remember seeing it either, but not like this. And a report that says we walked down, the path between Avery and Cuss Road and letters, yada yada yada. We found this. No, I don't know what the hell's here. It looks like they've dug. That looks like they may have dug some more, Joe. Hole and a hole here. Let's see what we can find from. Yep, see they got their spade out over here. Got the shovel out again.
Nice call. Yep, brand new shovel. Got to use it. Got to test it out. See if it works.
Yep, and we're at the letter N. And I see some. I don't know what that means.
That
Maybe
almost
it's
looks like a
probably-
dog track. You want to zoom back in that darker area? Yeah, right down there. Isn't that kind of right there? Yeah, kind of
Yes, what's
resembles
that?
dog track. Maybe that's what I was hoping that we were going to find. There's some dog tracks.
Well, if it's a dog track or a tire track. 'Cause I see dot, 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 dot. I don't know. Maybe not.
Or Bigfoot, you know.
Could be Bigfoot. It's possible. You lived in that region. I don't know, man. Is that a thing?
No, not
Okay, here we
really.
go. There was an alert was reported in the center of the pit along the sand pile. No, that's not. Is that it? That's not it, is it? That's alert 11.
Oh,
Near the sand pile, it doesn't look like to me.
no. Well, I'm not sure what they're referring to. I mean, they clearly had piles of gravel in certain areas in certain size, and I'm sure they did have a big sand pile.
It does look like this grass is kind of pushed down. There's been something, going, but we don't know if it's them doing that. We don't know that it's not the cops doing that.
Here's M, and then right down from it is N. So I'm not sure what they detect, what's been alerted on here. It does kind of look like it's been pushed down, and I don't know if it's, I don't know. And here we go more. It looks like it's been pushed down, almost like water has ran through it, or it's been trampled. I can't tell. A wide angle going. This looks like part of the berm here. Cap was talking about. See how high up that is? I don't know that for sure, though. Okay, big rock. Big rock.
Big rock and
Like-
small measurement.
And the letter O.
Letter O, yeah. They've definitely got a flag there of some kind. Let me zoom out and We'll move forward, see if there's anything that we
I
can
think
see
that
at all.
I'm wondering if that was the county pit. Oh, I don't know. It's hard to tell. What did the flag say?
I think it's the same one as before. I think they're using these flags that say electrical, or this is a
buried electrical line.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's the same. I can't tell. The hell, that's top down. I can't tell. You may be right though, Jeff. They may have been using those for markers. Here we go. Looks like another pile has been dumped out of just bottom of a barrel.
Frankly, that looks like it's been there quite a while. Sorry.
It does.
It looks like it's been there and weathered, and that's what happens. And then if you go searching for this stuff, you're going to find it. How often do you think a burn barrel fills up? That would be a good question to ask.
How high does it have to get before you're dumping it out as well? Like some of these piles are quite small.
Quarter full. Well, you burn something down if it's empty. It takes, weeks and weeks, and then it builds up, and all of a sudden you're like, the burn barrel won't stay lit very well. And you're like, oh, okay, I guess it's time to dump it out. So I don't know, 20% full, something like that.
It just depends on how diligent you are about dumping it, because you can only dump it so many times before it's like brittle and just falls apart on you.
And it gets too heavy to dump.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a pain in the ass. So you want to kind of.
Yeah, I was going to say from a weight standpoint, you probably wouldn't want to let it get too damn full. I don't really see shit here. I think it's another dump job of nothing. And clearly, grass has grown all the way around this one. There's nothing there.
Right. But you got to take pictures with that new camera you bought.
That's right. And we're on the clock, so snap off a few.
Well,
they've clearly
crime scene. And they still haven't found a crime scene.
Well, you can tell that they dug down into here too, a little bit at least. Nothing there. Okay, that's the end of that roll. So we can continue on if you want with the next section, or we can wait and do it the next time. It's entirely up to you.
Well, where are we at? What's everybody feeling? I'm kind of.
I'm good either way. I'm a night owl, so that's entirely your guys' call. That's up to you.
Kath, you want to keep going?
My brother's just arrived again.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I
guess that's the answer.
Yeah, I've got to go. I'm sorry, guys. I was just starting to get into it as well.
That's okay. They're not going anywhere. I mean, these are photos we've had and we'll continue to have, and we can study them more later.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because I wanted to touch on just, the areas surrounding Redance and just a few things like that. But, next time.
Worked for me.
Oh, people are saying keep going. God, you guys can keep going. If I can get away, I'll come back.
Why don't we do one more, Jack? And Kath, we'll have to see you on the
flip side.
On the flip side.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming, everyone. I'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you, Kath.
Thanks, Kath. Have a good one. Okay.
Okay, one more, Jack. We'll do one more reel, and then that'll be just about 3 hours by the time we get through all this.
Okay, that moves out of the. Let me go back here.
Throw up some questions, guys. If you have any questions out there that are kind of relevant to what we talked about today, or just in general, that's cool.
Okay. Make sure where I'm at here, because there's like 6 folders in this whole gambit, and I'm trying to make sure.
I don't know how you keep it straight, Jack. I don't know how you do it. You must have a fantastic method. That Dewey Decimal System that you learned in grade school is really paying off for you. I
just try to put shit in boxes, and then when I get done with that box, I slide the box back in my brain. I don't always work, but I try. Okay. I will tell you that pretty much ends the quarry photos. That's the last one. These other ones are, looks like around the yard. Yeah, they are. All right, let me share this and we can continue on. What the hell's my webpage? Okay, there we go. All right, there we go.
No, is that the car that the license plates were found in?
Yep.
Okay. As Chuck said, the one with all the windows smashed out?
You can tell. That one's broken all the hell right there. That one's broken. Yep, that's right. This one, front window, looks like it's completely smashed out.
Not that it matters, but I could get those license plates in that car by just
driving by,
tossing them in from this side of the fence.
Damn right.
That's what happened. I'm just saying it could be done. And maybe that's why it was Target. Maybe that's why I was like, oh, nice.
Yep.
I'll just walk past here, bloop, bloop, throw them in there. No one noticed. Just me walking past. Interesting.
Yep. Front the windshield's busted out. You can tell. I mean, this one here doesn't even look like it has any glass in it. The passenger window, you can see where it's broken out.
That's not the vacation mobile, is it? That's not the one that Chevy Chase drove in vacation, is it? Because it's got some.
That's
we
funny.
might come back to that. I'm gonna look that up right now.
That's funny. They took a number of photos of it, that's for sure. Jesus. All right. Oh, hell, here's even a better photo. Here's a close-up. Wow, you can really tell the glass has been, somebody took a damn bat to it. And I'm not sure I don't know if this is, I'm not sure whose garage this is. I don't know if this is.
Is that zippers?
No. Well, I don't know. That's a good question. I didn't think so, but I was thinking it was Ma and Pa Avery's, but I could be wrong.
Oh, I don't think that's zippers. That looks like
it is. I think it is with the golf cart.
Yeah. That's the golf cart.
Yeah. And these are dated. I meant to do this a minute ago. These are dated the 11th, and this is at 1:26 in the afternoon.
Say what you will about lifestyle of living on a salvage yard, but I'm pretty jealous of their golf cart. I'm not gonna lie.
Damn right. I bet you are. Yeah. I guess they took it in right after this. I don't know why I was thinking it had been confiscated prior to this, but I guess it was afterwards. And somebody's little scooter back here. I don't remember anybody talking about a scooter, but clearly somebody had one.
I mean, that's kind of interesting. Just knowing that it exists. You could load that thing in. I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but just knowing that exists now, that kind of adds another element to my head. Huh.
Well, who the hell rode the scooter?
I don't know.
I doubt that Alan was driving it.
I'm with you on that one.
And then the golf carts. I bet you are a little jealous of that. I'm sure you could make good use of that thing right there, right?
Sorry, Jack, I walked away.
It's okay. It's all right. You do what you got to do. He's pretty rough. But being on that salvage yard, I imagine, driving around and so forth.
Yeah,
easy to get dirty.
Around here, because I could just drive like a mile and I could be at the ocean if I had one of those. Then I wouldn't have to take my car. Yeah. They're popular here.
I bet.
It's like down in Florida, they have all those retirement communities. Everybody just drives around in their golf carts.
Sure.
So what are they identifying blood or something? I want to zoom in there. What's on that seat? Let's just take a real.
Well, I seem to remember correct me here, Brian. They found some pubic hairs on the seat.
Well, big surprise.
Oh, I do not
You got a
recall.
bunch of men wearing shorts driving the golf cart. Big surprise.
what
You're
it-
gonna find.
Well, clearly there's two different things that are being identified here because they got two letters. So what the hell? I mean, this kind of looks like somebody with greasy hands have got in there and put their hand down.
Just looks like
It's dirty.
residue from someone's pants that have dried. It's just
Yep.
it's a salvage yard vehicle. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna get some things on there, I guess. But when you're investigating stuff, everything becomes something interesting until it's not, and until it's ruled out. So
yeah,
just because you see one of these yellow placards, these yellow cards, doesn't mean that it's anything.
That's right. Oh, they've measured something here. Like I said,
well, that looks like liquid, but that ain't blood, right?
It looks like mud or grease to me, but I don't know. These are the hairs. I was pretty sure that they had found some hairs on the seat, but like I said, if you're wearing shorts or whatever, I mean that no surprise, right? Could have even come off somebody's arm or beard. And again, that looks like mud or grease. I can't tell, but I'll zoom in on it. It blurs out too much, too pixelated. Anyway, what else we got here? More of the seat.
If that was blood that you're looking at, they would have jumped all over it. You know what I mean? That's how we know it's not blood.
Right. No, it wasn't blood. I'm sure it wasn't blood. And they would have done, if they would have thought it was blood, they would have done a phenolphthalein test immediately, I'm sure. And this car looks like S and, let's see, S and R, or R and S, I should say.
Yes, sir.
And I think this is Dolores's Chevy Malibu. I think that's right.
Once upon a time, I had a car like that, but it was an Oldsmobile.
There you go.
That thing was a beast in the snow.
Yeah, I don't think there's not much to see here.
Grandma's trunk. I mean, you know what I mean?
Nothing here. Absolutely nothing.
She had some bags of something powder. Maybe it's flour for her cake or something. Who knows what that could be?
Or gravel.
Gravel from.
It could be kitty. Could be kitty litter.
Who knows?
And that's the end of that row.
Well, we saw a few things, but I don't think we saw much of anything, to be honest with you, on that last roll there.
We did not.
They take these pictures. They don't know if it means anything. And, it's like that golf cart. If there was something legit on there, they would have collected it. They would have They would have pinned Avery to that. You know what I mean? So, I mean, imagine if they could be like, this is Teresa Halbach's blood on the golf cart. It's all over for you. Either that or your mom did it, right? Like they would, but they didn't. That's the important thing. Is you have to remember we see all these flags, but then nothing's collected in their report. We have pictures of that, so it's like, well, nothing came from these flags. Some of them, some of them they talk about, but it's interesting. Cool.
Don't you find it ironic? Sorry, don't you find it ironic? They take photos that mean fuck all, yet they don't take photos that they should be taking photos.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's the fuckery, as they call it.
This last folder, it's actually another roll. There's pictures from the quarry. There's some car photos, and there's 55 in this last folder. So we can show them now, or again, it don't matter to me. I'm good either way. Or we can show.
Let's go one more. All right, one more.
All right.
Let it ride.
All right. Looks like we're going to pick up here as soon as I get it shared where we left off with Ma Avery's car. Share screen. We're going to pick right up where we left off. It looks like in the Chevy. It's in the trunk of that
Back to
hot pot.
back to Grandma's trunk.
Yep. Back at the
Moving a
cocaine.
bunch
I
of
mean,
groceries in here.
hey, that could be cocaine. Could be heavy.
Could be.
Yeah,
Heroin?
I don't think so. I'm
pretty sure it's not.
No. They even gave it a letter, item T,
Oh, there we go.
and you.
And you. There's two. Just imagine if one of those cops was like testing that powder. Oh, there's the baking soda. Look at, she's got baking. That's the to keep it dry in there. To keep it dry, she has baking soda in there, and that's what they marked.
Hey, we're back out. We're back out in the quarry.
Excellent.
Looks like we're at letter W back here. I don't see anything yet. Can't see anything on that flag. Looks like another one of those electrical flags to me, though, Joe. And W. I don't know, guys. Looks to me like another barrel has been dumped over. It's even got rocks embedded around it. Yeah, it's a stash.
I mean, it's been there, sitting there for a while too.
Yep.
I mean, as we keep saying, they dump their burn barrels, right? Like those sticks are like in that mess, right?
Yes.
So how did the sticks grow on top of that and that be recent? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be super sciencey to figure out when weeds are growing through the mess that's not related to a recent crime. Again, like that. Does that look like it's fresh to you?
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
Really
Okay, here's two big rock piles. Maybe we'll have something more to. I do see a flag here. Well, actually, this is back from the same flag we were just looking at. There's W right there. I was actually fixing to click off this and move forward, but there it is. All right. And then, here's a tire track. That's definitely a tire track.
Well, there's never matched to anything.
No, and again, I don't necessarily think it's strange that out in this quarry that you would have a car or a truck track that's left an embedded impression in the dirt. I just don't.
No. And you know why? Because when you load up your burn barrel to dump it, where you load it up in.
That's right. You didn't carry it out there.
No. I mean, you can see how easy it is to like try to draw out some circumstances that don't really fit a crime. They're just, well, somebody dumped a burn barrel here. It must be involved. Well, it turns out it's not. It's
nothing.
But they made a deal out of it, by taking pictures and putting it in a report. And
now this car here, I'm pretty sure we have a video somewhere. Somebody got him, Barry or Rookie or somebody. They picked this car up. This isn't that right, Kel, Brian? You guys remember? They put the belly straps on and picked this car up.
Yeah, I remember something on that. I'd be honest with you, I'm not sure which car it was, but I do remember hearing that they did pick up a car. Not even. This is probably the first time I've actually been shown which car it probably was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was this car, and I don't think we even have a report as to why they did it. But this car is kind of if this is the one I'm thinking of, it's kind of away from the RAV. It's nowhere. I mean, I can't say it's not anywhere near it, but it's not that close to it. And of course, they didn't find anything that, as far as I know. And we're back in the quarry again at item W again. They seem really interested in item W.
Can you go back and zoom in on that cop car?
On the car?
Oh, no. Forward.
Oh.
That cop car. Interesting.
State
Okay.
Patrol.
So it's not too hard to drive a vehicle in there if these cop cars are not trucks are easily coming in and out to this point.
Oh, no, they can drive right back in there.
That's right. You don't even need any special equipment.
Nope. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything here to really draw my attention. The rock does look a little discolored over here, but this could be different kind of rock. I mean, again, it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't look like anything to me. I mean, and sometimes you see stuff and it looks like matted down area, matted down. It could just be deer sleeping too. I mean, there's so many different possibilities for what they think they might have. And I don't know. I guess it seems DCI was taking advantage of the free hours too. They just were like, let's look at everything. Yeah, have knee pads.
I was going to say, what that looks like some really heavy duty.
Man, I really
I never noticed. Yeah. I'll move on.
I'll truth to that club that they're talking about. Huh?
Putting down a flag for. No, nope. Neither one of these guys are.
He's got his gun in case one of the bones jumps out and tries to bite him.
We're up to item Z, or letter Z, I should say.
Brand new tools.
Well, they're definitely getting some coordinates for something. I don't. Because a lot of these were
flag now. We were looking at red flags before. So.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these areas in the quarry work. They were gridded out properly with GPS coordinates. So I do hand them that.
Hey, can we take a look in the back of that guy's truck and just see what the hell kind of tools they are bringing out? Yeah, probably never going to look at this picture. Well, what has he got? Cable, hammer mill, a pallet, a saw. There's a saw back there, it looks like.
Yep.
Some other, not much. Hard to tell what's in those bins. I just thought it might be interesting to see what we could see. Give us any clue as to what.
And this looks like a utility truck thing.
Holding up 2 shovels. I mean, I think you get paid overtime for that.
Sure.
To hold up 2 shovels? I mean, is this a union job?
And he's got his knee pads on just in case he falls.
Oh, God damn it, Jack. You're going to make me bust out.
Sorry.
Oh.
My bad.
Here's the thing, right, though, okay? Funny enough, we're getting all these pictures. Who did you request these pictures and they just sent them to you? That's the first question. Is this where did you get these from, J. Jax?
These are photos that Euros got many moons ago, probably 2018, I think, or 19.
Okay. So they released on a FOIA. Is that fair assumption? They were released on. Okay. So my point is, they're releasing these photos that are insignificant. They're not bearing any resemblance to the case, especially to Teresa Hallbuck, and yet people have been requesting for years now just to send us a picture of Cass Road and at best the peat moss bag. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's almost like
absolutely.
Why,
absolutely.
If you want us to end the speculations, if you want us to all stop, creating what they call false rabbit holes and conspiracy theories, and with us truthers or us researchers just carry on like pork chops, end it. Send a picture.
I'd love to. I'd love to. Exactly. I'd love to do that and move on. I would love it.
I third that motion.
I don't know what that is. Something weird. It looks like
magazine. No, I'm sorry.
It looks like they've got a bucket there for something. I don't know what they've been collecting. Maybe we'll get a better shot here.
They wanted to get new buckets, so they had to come up with a reason to get a bucket.
Yeah. They've clearly dug something up here. They
I mean, it
scraped
looks like
something up.
somebody's dog was digging in there, or I mean, I guess like when you see disturbed earth, you're gonna be like, well, hey, why is the earth disturbed here? And
Well,
we're looking for pieces and bones of, and I guess that would make sense, but
if a dog hit, one of the cadaver dogs hit on something biological that's decayed, I get it.
could very well be. There
Okay,
you
here's
go.
one.
Well, that's a
Here's
big
one that's yeah. This is I think they did. I think they may have found something here, but don't hold me to that.
Well, there's a red flag. You can zoom in on it again, and we can establish that they're using these flags. Yes,
Yep.
it's a danger. This is what we saw
You're
before, so it's not actually
not an electrical line. No, they were using them for markers.
Yeah, using them for markers. So now that looks like a really big burn barrel, or to be honest, it looks like a few months of burn barrel dumps there. Like it looks.
That's what I was going to say. Many times dumped.
Yeah, that's my burn barrel pile. What are you going to do with that? I don't know. I just keep adding to it because I don't want to have just little dots all around the property. I want to have one.
Yeah, unless you had a damn dumpster catch on fire and you brought it out there and dumped it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how strange is it to see this where we are? And like you see those tin cans that aren't all the way burnt. Like, come on, folks. That fire was not that hot enough to burn a bone, but to leave an aluminum can half singed, like that thing would be vaporized. You wouldn't, it might be a little puddle of something on the bottom, but the tab is still there, folks. Come on.
Yep. It would have burned it right up.
And it's not only one, you know what I'm saying? It's multiple cans I can see in there. Some of them are crushed, right? It looks like paper. Yeah, right there.
Sure does. That's why I zoomed in on it, because if it wasn't how it almost looks like maybe plastic or something that's been.
Yeah, it does kind of look like what do you do with your garbage? You throw it in a plastic bag and then you throw it in the burn barrel. And it burns up. Yeah, so
that's right.
It's mystery solved, folks. We figured it out.
That was kind of great.
Literally nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Nope.
Right, but let's take 25 pictures of it to make sure that.
Short of them digging through this and laying shit out here on the side on a tarp, there's nothing to see there. Nothing. Here's number 2 that they've done something here. I really wish we can I'm going to look around, see if I can find any kind of reference to these letters and numbers. Cause
yeah, cool.
Surely, I know Grand Chute took the photos. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's a request for Grand Chute. And I don't remember, Cal, if yours got them from Grand Chute or from Queso. I don't remember.
That looks like something scraping, right? That looks like something scraping the bottom, like, oh gosh, I don't know. Like if you were to use a front end loader and drag the bucket.
The bucket.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
The bucket right there. That's what it looks like to me.
That's exactly what I thought, actually.
So that doesn't look like it's nefarious.
Now, I think the 5 buckets here, this is a different location. I say different location. I don't know what location. But I know that yours has used these photos because these buckets were utilized. They put whatever in.
What a nice picture. He's holding up another shovel there, getting his union hours in.
Yep.
Well, oh gosh, how many you got left in this reel here?
I don't think many at all. I think we're about done.
Okay, cool.
Let me see.
I mean, these are interesting right here, actually. Like, I think we might want to start here, back with these buckets. And I really want to explore these buckets more. Like, even from the one previously to this. Yeah, these like maybe yeah okay for right here
Like-
from here on out maybe we pick up there next
Maybe.
time.
Works for me.
Yeah, because there's a lot to see here, I think, because we know they're collecting from this spot.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's like I think 15 or 18 more photos in this bunch, but not all of them are of this. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like there's about 12 or so left of the quarry, and then there's a few of look like maybe Brian's car, and that's it. That's the end of it. So we're getting close to the end of what's here. So, but yeah, we can pick this up for next time.
Cool.
Works,
Yeah.
works for
Well,
me.
then let's just open it up to anybody, or we'll just go through and say, if you have any comments to add right now, you guys. Otherwise, we'll just kind of move to wrap up this live, and we'll move on to the next, as we always say with Big Jeff.
Hey, I'd like to thank Kel and for her work and doing that PDF and the timeline. It's a good base to build on, and anything that anyone that finds from that time frame, I'd say give it to Kel so she can add it, so we can build a better picture of real events, in real time. I think that's what's important for us.
Couldn't agree more with that. Thank you, Cal.
Yeah, Kel.
Yeah, Kel. She's probably sitting there talking and she's muted.
I know. I'm just slapping it up. All the thank yous. Thank you. Thank you. No, seriously. Thanks, guys, for even letting me, put it forward.
Letting you threatened me. No, I'm just kidding.
This is what I like doing, though. I think that, I always say, going off because we bounced out from the premiere of, I think it was episode 19. And Jeff, it was Big Jeff was saying in it that he gets pissy with me because I say things, and he goes, and it sucks because it's the fact that you're right that I don't like, because it's not always in a favorable way for our side. And I think this is what I do when I do my timelines and my homework and my researching, is I think to myself, to understand the other side or so much like the enemy, you have to think like them. That way you can always be that one step ahead. So when I do these timelines, I try to look at it from their point of view as well, because people make mistakes. They leave trails. And if you start opening your mind, thinking like how they would be thinking and why they're doing the things they're doing, you can find it. And that's what I mean. All these pieces were already out there for the community to grab. And you hear, people speak about the calls, as an individual cause, but they actually all do make sense once you put them in the sequence that they belong in, and it tells a story. And that's ultimately what I've done. And that's my shout outs to everyone that's done FOIAs and paid for all these calls and made and foul play for making it a public forum, so we can get access to all these documents and calls, because without you guys, I'd be limited. I don't have the resources or the files that you guys do, and all the other people that along the way that has contributed to the case. And they might not be following it now, or circumstances have changed, but anyone that's ever contributed to the case, by whether that's an individual FOIA or whether it's a group FOIA and then it's all been released, that's what part of the community is all about. So again, thank you, Jeff Jones, for allowing me the platform to be able to show my work and my thoughts. For the chat that follow along, I'm sorry if I lose a few of you, the way I talk or the way I, bring it forward. I try to, every time I speak, it's so weird because in the back of my mind, subconsciously, I try to think to myself, dumb it down. So, simplify it so people can understand it. You want to tell a story, but you want to make it a simple story, because not everyone can interpret it like information the same. Some people need pictures to help guide along. Some people need the context to read along to. So that's why I try to incorporate all of it today in my PowerPoint. I wanted to show you guys, you know, the document side of it so you could visualize it. I want you to see the dates in big letters so you could follow it along. But of course, apologies if I lose you in it when I was trying to explain it. Thanks, Kath, individually, Jay Jax, Brian, and of course you, Jeff Jones, and for everyone in the chat. And I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, Kel. Appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Kel.
Appreciate the comments. Brian, if you want to take a little piece and wrap us up a little bit.
Oh, I have
Yeah.
nothing more to add. I don't think. I think it was well covered.
Sometimes that's where we find ourselves. Absolutely. And I think half might have already dropped out. She had to go take a phone call. You know, Cal, as an educator, when you say those things, I get all warm and fuzzy because learners, we all learn differently. And, you know, even some people are tactile learners. They really have to have it in their hands. They like to work with things in their hands. That's how they learn best. So the way that you were describing how different people absorb information differently, that's what I'm talking about all the time as an educator as well. So that gave me a nice warm and fuzzy feeling as an educator to see you acknowledge that. Thank you guys so much. As usual, I've learned more than I've contributed. And I just appreciate everything that you guys have done to put this together. These lives have become more and more fun every 2 weeks that we do them. So appreciate that.
I will alert you that and we've shown some, but Trooper Reese and Trooper Judge, between the two of them, they took like 20 or 21 rolls of film. Now, in most of their rolls, there's only like 10, maybe 20 at most, 24 in a roll, but most of them I think have got like 12 or 14. So I mean, so there's quite a few photos, but there's really not that many. If you think about rolls of film, so just on the horizon somewhere down the road, Trooper Reese, Trooper Judge, yeah, they're. I mean, it gives us certain ones will certainly give us talking points to get into, and maybe even prompts. You know, as Kel said, another open records request. You know, you never know.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Jack. So thank you, Jack and Cal and Brian and Calf and everybody else who's contributed. Thank you guys out in chat. This is Jeff Jones saying this has been After Discussing a Murderer.